All right, welcome to MazzaMedia. I am Mark. Happy Sunday afternoon. It is raining outside right now. It is a cloudy, miserable day out there, and I'm on mute. Okay, let's restart the show. Here we go. Hello, welcome to MazzaMedia. I am Mark. It is Sunday afternoon, July 27th, 2025. Summer is closing out very soon here. About a month of good weather to go before it starts to turn into fall. Leaves start falling, all that good stuff. But here in Massachusetts today, it is rainy, it is cold, it is a little bit clammy. And I figure, I was going to do a show yesterday, but I was so tired yesterday. I had a lot of yard work to do. And the weather was good to get out there and mow the lawn, cut down some trees I needed to get down. And then beyond that, it was going to rain today. I said, Saturday's the day to do the yard work. Sunday is the day to do some streaming instead of wasting the good weather. I don't want to be outside and, or be inside all day when the weather's good. And then all of a sudden on Sunday, I have to stay inside too. So I had to organize that weekend, which was fun. So today is going to be what I call open court. Open court's kind of a play on basketball, and open court basketball typically means that the court's open for anybody to play. And we kind of use that term almost like court because we talk about a lot of court cases on this program. So kind of it's basically an open discussion show, basically, in short is what that means. So I'm excited for today. This is going to be probably a 2-hour show at least. There's going to be several guests from time to time appearing on this show. The Glarer, Attorney Nan Gallagher-Jason, Broyles-Britt-Broken, Baker have all been extended invites today and will appear at various times when they are available. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. We could be talking about Karen Reed. We could be talking about Aiden Carney. We could be talking about various matters as well. Broken Baker is joining me today as well. I'm not sure. I cannot remember if you've ever been on my show before or not. But
no,
I've been on yours.
You were on for my 13 creators at Christmas.
Yes. Yeah. So that I do remember.
Yeah, that's and then you took like a hiatus right after, so I scared you away from the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So I took a nice hiatus and all that, and we got Jason Broyles about to join us soon, and then we got Britt Happens about to join us soon, and then the Glarer was on late last night. He did a show last night that probably went 3 to 4 hours.
No, it went longer because I was doing my show, and he had I think he'd been going for an hour when I went to bed at 5 a.m. my time, which would have been 11 your time. Then I had my 4-hour nap, 3-hour nap, and then he was still going. I got the back end of it, so that was that's the worst part about living 6 hours away. It's really hard to watch shows. That's when everyone is doing the hey, did you see Aiden last night? No, he goes on at 3 a.m. my time. It's really And then you come into chat at like 5 in the morning and he's just about to end and everyone is like, oh, you should really go back and watch it. Yeah, but you have to, Ronkel goes late, Aiden goes late, the Glarer goes late. That's so much to watch. But it's because it's great content.
Right. Oh, there's a lot of great content. And, it was interesting too. Me and Mike and the Young Jerks were talking about how many creators were following the Karen Reed case compared to the first trial. And how much it was, there was so many more content creators out there, so much more coverage this time around, which is awesome. Because it was like last year, like me and Mike were going like show after with Mark Better, show after show after show, day after day after day. And at the end of that first trial, we're like, oh my goodness, we were all like, I don't know if we can keep this up for a second trial. Unfortunately, a lot more content creators jumped in on YouTube and kind of were able to kind of take up some of the real estate there in terms of getting show coverage and keeping that wall-to-wall coverage going, which was fantastic.
Yeah, but it was as one of the OGs, it was so hard. And doing it again, and I've been lucky and lucky. Both times I've had my vacation in Tennessee while the case has been going. So last year I was away when Jen was on, and this time it was the first week of the defense. I think I was in Tennessee, and you know how it is. You're sitting here 8 hours a day, and then you're done, and people are still wanting the content, and you're just sometimes you just want to say, I'm gonna go cover puppies playing in a yard for 2 hours today. Just wanted something else.
Yeah.
It's no, it's but it was a big case. It was the biggest case this year so far because Koberger didn't get to go to court, and I think that would have been a big one. But and whenever there's a good case, you've been along for the ride all the way through and seen the movement grow, and then there you have the people who come around and say, "Oh, this smells like super chats and subscribers. I'm going to jump right in on that." And then you're sitting watching some of the shows where they're like, "Oh, that Karen Reed, I think she went out grocery shopping and forgot John in the car." No, that's not quite what. Well, I heard that's this guy called Turtle Man who ran over Brian Albert, maybe. No, not quite it. But hey, at least you got 500 subs, so congrats to you.
Oh, jeez, that's funny. Jason Broyles is in the house, first time ever appearing on this show. Jason, welcome. I'm glad we're able to collaborate.
Yeah, good morning. Happy to be here. Awesome.
And then the Glarer is here. The Glarer, I'm hoping he's got plenty of coffee to his lower left side because he's at energy drinks today. This man did a show. I just heard that was actually more than 4 hours.
It's too hot for coffee.
Is it? Yeah.
It's too hot for coffee.
Where'd you go? About 6 hours last night?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Whew. I tuned in late. It was later in the night. I kind of went off to watch movies after tuning in. I tuned in for about 2 hours last night. I went to go watch some movies, and then all of a sudden I was getting ready for bed. And I was checking YouTube, and I'm like, wait, Glaire's still on right now? He's still going. I saw Auntie Deb and Olivia on the show.
Right. That was the game changer there. I was planning on ending the stream at 3 hours after I took some phone calls, and then Olivia called, and then that conversation got interesting, and then Jimmy was in the chat, and then I had the idea of bringing Jimmy on because I was like, I don't know, I was just like, this could be really fun. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, I've got more energy drinks. Why not?
Yeah. So pass them around.
yeah. So then they both jumped on, and then we reviewed, because I had already reviewed it, but it was so funny, and I wanted to experience that with those two because they're great, and I knew that they'd get a kick out of it. So we reviewed Nick Rekieta's review of Uncivil Law's interview of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, and that took a while because we were commentating, and it wasn't just me commentating, it was the two of them adding their input. So with all the pausing and everything, that just a 15-minute video took, well, it was only like 25, but that took like another 3 hours.
Yeah, easily. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, man, Glaire's going deep tonight. I didn't see anywhere earlier in the day. I'm like, if Glare can't make today's show, totally understand if he needed the rest.
I'd do it all over again in a second. It was so much fun. It was so much fun because I'd never done a stream with them, with the two of them together before. Like, it's fun because like we've been doing this for so long, but there's still a combination of creators that have never done streams together before. You know what I mean? So when it does happen for the first time, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, and it got a little. Jimmy got a little combobulated when one of your mods came in.
Yeah, that caught him off guard a little bit.
I missed what happened.
Uncivil Law actually came into the chat, and he has a wrench on my channel. Like we weren't there to, at least I wasn't, and they weren't. Olivia and Jimmy, we weren't there to trash Kurt. We were there to make some jokes of, make light is the best way to put it. Make light of a very awkward situation, but there was nothing malicious about it. So there was no reason to be upset with anyone about it. And there was no reason to take, to just straight insult somebody about it. And I don't believe that we did that. We just pointed out very obvious things that were very cringy and they happen. It's not a big deal. Like, I've had my cringe moments too, and I am subject to being made fun of for it. It doesn't mean, that those who are making fun of me for it hate my guts and are like, oh, look at this asshole. I have no respect for that guy anymore. Like, that's not anywhere near where my mind was. But then he showed up in the chat, and then he kind of he like left all mad from the chat, and it was like, whatever, man. That wasn't the move.
right.
That wasn't the move here.
That was one of the things that I always tell when people say, hey, what good advice can you tell me about doing this? If you hang out with some smaller streamers and they are just beginning and saying, what should I do? What should I be aware of? And said, don't have thin skin.
Exactly.
It's the good old sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never do. And someone calling me a fat retard. Yeah, I've heard it before. So what?
I've been called
Jared. They call me Jared from Subway.
I've been called a fat retard. I mean, it's like whatever.
No, and I always say this, like, if you think these anonymous commenters on Twitter, it kills me. Like, if you think you can say anything meaner than my friends and I say to each other, like, you're out of your mind. I feel comfortable when you start to insult me. Like, now I feel like I'm with my people,
Yeah,
right.
I go to the gym. Yes, I did hack squats today, Clara. But I go to the gym with
I could totally tell. I learned from my mistakes. So yeah, Broken Baker, I could totally tell, man. You look jacked today, bro.
Yeah, I don't do curls on my leg program, but I have to incorporate those. But no, I train with this 60-kilo little woman, and she was like, "Why are you always mean to every guy you talk to?" I said, "I'm only mean to my friends." You call them small, you say, "Oh, you can't lift more than that," because if guys wrestle each other, it means we like you. If we go in and say, "Oh, hi, Mazza, so nice to meet you. Glad to be here."
Yeah, and that's part of the whole gym culture with your friends. Like, really, dude, that's all you can bench. Like, do you want me to massage your feet for you so you can try it again, dude? Like that's the kind of shit you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You razz each other, like,
right.
Especially if someone like starts complaining after doing one set, like, they deserve to get razzed on, because it also helps motivate them. It also makes them go, you know what, dude, I'm going to do this,
right.
And, like, that's the difference between somebody who reacts in the way that I just described or goes, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here, I'm going home, I'm just going to watch TV and eat junk food, drink.
Yeah, and you have to kind of get into the circle to get that harassment.
Right. So which type of person are you? Are you the type of person to allow that to motivate you? Are you the type of person who's going to use it as an excuse to feel sorry for yourself?
Yeah, and I think I used to work out in a strongman gym, and that's a very unique gym to work out in.
Yeah.
But it's the most testosterone filled, some of them with a little extra, and it's the most encouraging. People coming up, I have quite big calves, and I have a pretty big leg press, and having some guy come up and say, "How the hell do you do that? 3 reps of 1,100 pounds?" I said, "I don't know. Doesn't it kill your legs?" I said, "Nah, I have a nerve damage, so I can't feel it really. So it's probably pretty stupid. My knees hurt like hell, but I do it."
Some people are really strong, man. Like, you seem like you're naturally really strong.
I have the weakest chest in the world.
By your frame, I can tell that you're naturally pretty strong. At least naturally very strong, I would imagine.
I have a good lower body strength. My chest is weak.
I could see you winning one of those slap fight contests in Europe. Like, whoa! Like, I could see you being one of those dudes.
Have you seen the Russians doing that?
That's what I'm talking about. It's wild, bro.
Yeah.
They're hard not to watch, like you could get stuck in a lupa watching those for an hour.
Totally, Jason. Yeah. Totally, dude.
But it's a different culture. I was deployed with the Lithuanians, and they had fucked up. They hadn't cleaned their vehicles after doing a night patrol. And they would lined up, and their captain just walked past each of them, just slapped them in the face. Imagine someone doing that in the American Army. He would be fired.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, be reprimanded and put in the barricade, stockades, right?
Yeah, it was.
It's funny that you say that, because I was in the Marine Corps, and when I was in training at Parris Island, South Carolina, boot camp, we were kind of approaching graduation, and boot camp is rough, and they kind of break you down, but then they build you up, and as you get closer and closer to graduation, they're nicer and nicer to you. So we were in that last week before graduation, when the whole week is dedicated to, like, we're going to practice marching for graduation, like we're going to practice our formations, we're going to do. In the area where we would practice in 1st Battalion, the parade deck was under construction, so we had to go through and use the 4th Battalion parade deck. And anyone who knows about Parris Island, 4th Battalion is where they train the women Marines.
I feel like you're describing the plot of Stripes right now.
No, although that's a great movie.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
We were razzle dazzle. As we were marching over with our drill instructor, we were a couple of us were at the back of the formation, and we're marching past the women's barracks, and there's a group of women who were in the pit, which means that they were getting forced calisthenics, right? They're out there, and their drill instructor was hammering them, and we were in the back, and we kind of snickered, like a couple of us kind of like smiled or laughed, and their drill instructor saw us, and that lady said, drill instructor, to our drill instructor, and said, I want to borrow a couple of your recruits who think this is funny. And so
oh boy,
he said yes. She called us over there. Our platoon left. They left us there. And I had never been killed so bad as I got killed by that female drill instructor as we were there. So it's funny when you're talking about getting slapped in the face. I think I crawled out of there to get back to my platoon. That's how bad that woman punished us. Jeez. I had a whole new respect for women Marines, which is what they were called at the time, WMs.
Yeah.
After that.
Wow.
But
Parris Island's no joke. Yeah, that's hell on earth right there on Parris Island. If you survive that, God bless you, Jason. That's no joke. Yeah, we just do it at the very end. It's like a 24-hour, 30-hour what's it called? The crucible, or whatever they call it.
And it wasn't quite as, I mean, I was there in the early 90s talking about my age, so it wasn't quite as, they hadn't gotten the marketing around it yet, right? Where it's the crucible, but it is this. It is this kind of like constant, you're in the field, you're moving. You have the grenade range, you have all of these other things that happen there at the end to give you this to build it up to this big test. My fondest memory was if you went to a certain part of the island along the edge, you could look across the bay and you could see Fort Jackson, the Army base. And it was so hot because I was there in August and the humidity was off the charts. And I remember we were out, our drill instructors would take us out to the tree line in the woods so nobody could see us training, because they weren't supposed to be training us because that's how hot it was. And they'd always make us look across the bay and you'd see the black flag flying at Fort Jackson. And the black flag meant all training activities had to cease. And so we would be out there. They'd be killing us in the tree line so they didn't get caught. And we'd be looking, and they'd be reminding us how the people over at the Army base were inside in their air-conditioned barracks. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, I shouldn't tell you about how our basic training. We had like a month I enlisted in the Marines, or I got drafted to the Marines, or Navy. You call it Navy, we call it Marines. But we had like a month of just, hey, this is how you walk, this is how you talk, this is how you salute, and all of that. And then you go to your unit, and they will teach you if you go to the submarines or you go to the sailing. And I went to play music. So we were close quarter defense. That's our designation as musician and close quarter defense. We had 2 days of weapons training, and we had to stay at a farm and do like a full 24-hour drill. But because we're musicians, we slept inside because, hey, and they gave us rations, and we were like, we can't eat rations. We have to go to play for the Queen next week. We have to get our energy. So we went and got pizza instead. That's a close quarter defense we had. That's we looked really good in uniform, but damn if we could fight.
What do you guys you guys who served, what do you guys think of like sensitivity training related sensitivity related training programs in the military?
I would say the military kind of solves its own problems in a sense that, there are definitely issues. There were issues surrounding the integration of men and women and things like that. But like, take racism, for example, like it erases it because you're all treated like crap, right? Like, so you're thrown together with this group of people and you're all treated like crap. So it kind of builds up this thing. All of this new push to like, sure, it's great to talk to people how to treat each other and how to do different things, but
thanks for your service, by the way. Sorry about that. Yeah, I always say that. I was just really curious about this question. Sorry.
All of these social problems kind of solved themselves before they tried to do all the social engineering in there and all of the sensitivity training. And while I'm totally in favor of the stuff that they do around sexual assault and all of those other things, in terms of this, like, we just talked about this culture, right? Like the culture at the gym where, guys always claim superiority over each other and you make fun of your friends and you do this, but that's actually how you bond. And now with all of this, they're taking that away. So you're not having these experiences where you're really kind of, the good news is it doesn't work, right? They go to the class during the day, they go back to the barracks and they punch each other in the face because they're bros and they're hanging out.
Right. I want I like to think of the men and women who are defending my freedom and putting their lives on the line, that they are the most rabid, vicious motherfuckers that like, I want the enemy to fear their existence because they don't care about feelings. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying hire sociopaths. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, sensitivity training, it seems very almost politically driven to put this in there rather than just kind of in-house control, more or less, babysit. Somebody acts out, somebody behaves a certain way, and somebody gets into a fight. All right, deal with it. Use it as a training. Use it as a training exercise and prepare them for what they're there to prepare for. In theory, I don't know. I've never served in the military. I'm just talking.
Well, a lot of those problems are socially engineered out of the world, because we had a guy called Hypo because he was a hypochondriac. He was always sick. So we didn't code red him, but we made sure that he knew that we really didn't appreciate he was always trying to dodge out of doing his duties. We called it a strike system. So every time you didn't keep because we were the premier band for the Navy, so we had to look like the premier band of the Navy. We were so if you didn't shine your boots, and we had to sit there and just put on layers of shoe polish to make him look like a what do you call them, fancy dance shoes with the shiny leather. But we had to take
the Corfams and those things. That's right.
Yeah, but we started with a just a raw piece of leather, and then we had to sit and shine it up. It took like 8 hours, and then you had to keep it up. But that's sitting 8 hours with a piece of cotton and some shoe polish and just small circles, building layer upon layer. That's one of those things that builds character, because it's so fucking boring.
The fact that they made you musicians do this, I would imagine in theory, the purpose of that is to apply some military training in order to teach you, to embed in you.
It made you love your uniform.
The pride that you take in your appearance and your presentation representing your country in whatever you're doing. I think and that makes perfect sense. To be that meticulous, it's not about teaching you to battle, perseverance in battle, to sit there with a cotton ball and shine shoes for 8 hours. It is a self-discipline thing, but it teaches you to take pride in your uniform. It teaches you to take pride in your appearance and representing your country. That makes sense.
When I was deployed,
many of them years later are like making their beds you know, first thing in the morning, meticulously. I mean, not a wrinkle, even years down the road. It really does kind of carry into life those good habits.
But it is that, as you said, it's breaking kids down and building men, because you start in there and you're the hot shit. I started when I was 20 years old because I had to finish my apprenticeship, but it's 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and you have nothing but testosterone, and you want to hit ladies and drink beer.
Yeah.
And that's that. Hit on ladies, sorry. But well, if she gets we're not Sean Connery. But
it depends on what she said. Yeah.
I took that as like slang for sex anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the beautiful part of it, because every time we didn't have females in the Navy at that time, but you could get in as a female, like a cadet, and then you can get like an education and you could be there. So it was really good we knew when they shipped out, because they did basic training at our camp. So we went to the mess hall the last couple of days, and then we did the, hey girl, I know you're shipping out tomorrow, and if you want to be sent off with a little music, we can come up and play for you. And oh, you would? Yeah. You want to? The bar's closing now. We have our own bar down at our barracks. You want to come hang out? And there was always.
I love how that's the universal, like, perfect way to like pick up a girl when you're like in the military in that age. You just go, man, you know, I'm shipping out tomorrow.
No, she was shipping out, and we promised them to send them away with music.
Yeah, and you, that's how do you lose? You're like, oh, I'd love to play you a song.
It's the whole plot to Grease 2, right? The Grease 2. Let's
We're
do it for our country.
Totally. Yeah, I'm shipping out to play for the Queen tomorrow, and I just want the last thought before I do that I just played for you. And then that's it.
I'm not saying that I used that when I got deployed, that I might have used that for the last month when I was out drinking, saying, yeah, I'm deploying. You never know if you're going to come back. And you always knew if you got the soft eyes when you said that. Yep. There was fish tacos that night.
Wow.
So just one thing real quick, Mazza, and I'll let you, but you were talking about the uniform standards. I always have a white t-shirt on, and I always have a belt on. And if I leave home without a belt, I stop and buy one, because they literally ingrain this stuff in you, and it changes how you feel. Like, I literally feel like I'm doing something wrong to this day. I'm 52 fucking years old, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong. But the most important thing,
52, I would think you would learn to wear more than just a t-shirt when you're saying to dress up. You'd put on a dress shirt and a tie, maybe a jacket, right?
Yeah. Like, but no matter what I have, I always have a t-shirt on under it. And then even in the summer, my friends are like, it's 90 degrees out, and I'm like, yep, your t-shirt actually keeps you cool, you know. Like, but aside from that, when you're back to the mental health thing real fast, when you have this sensitivity training, first of all, it doesn't work. We would go to our, it's just like in corporate America, right? Everyone groans, you go to your sexual harassment training, and it's a big joke, right? So we would have this stuff that they would make us go through that everyone knew, like, even the instructors would be like, yes, we're here because we have to be. But there are so many very serious mental health needs in the military. You have people, you send young men overseas, and they see the most horrible shit, right? They, body parts and they see their friends blown up, and they see all of these things. And it's insulting that we're going to talk about sensitivity training for these people when they need real serious help with issues like PTSD and all of these things that come from this other stuff. So please don't talk to me about how we can be nicer to each other and avoid hurting feelings. Like, that's how those guys get through that other shit,
Yeah. Sorry, just quickly. I had a friend that just lost his life. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps during Afghanistan and Iraq. He just passed away this past week. My longtime buddy, Chris, he was 2 years behind me in school. But he tragically passed away this past week. So it was very, very tough to see him go. But he had been someone that had suffered PTSD and various injuries as well. And it was just very, very heartbreaking for a lot of me and a lot of fellow classmates to just see him pass away this past week. But he was a kid that, he was in high school when 9/11 happened and wanted to join the Marine Corps with a bunch of friends right outside of high school. and decided to do that. And he was a very tough kid, always a tough kid, never really let anybody push him around. Even kids in my grade that wanted to mess with him, he always stood up to them, and there was no shock. He not only joined the United States Marine Corps, but made it as well. And I've seen a lot of his pictures over the years when he was serving. And he was a good guy. He was a great guy. I always wanted to play basketball with me from time to time, a couple times each summer. And it was just very tough to see his passing. But that's one of the things that happens is PTSD is a very serious thing. And he was, I can attest he was not the same person he was after the military than he was before he went in. And it was just tough to see that happen, but God bless him. And I just I know he's passed on, but I pray for him nonetheless. Britt, I know Britt, you haven't had a chance to speak yet, and Broken Bacon will go right back to you after.
Oh, no worries. I mean, I'm sorry, first of all, for having to hop in late.
That's all right.
Webcam was not cooperating. And then I thought, well, screw it. I'll just try to do it from my phone. But I went to an area of my house that is literally the farthest away from my router, so that didn't work. And so I ended up doing some kind of restart and update on my computer and eventually made it. So I am sorry for being late and being a little behind. So guys, for those who aren't aware, we're raising money for Aiden Carney's defense fund. So if you could please go in the chat. Is it linked, Mazza? Yeah, it's linked in there.
Yeah, it's pinned to the top of the chat. Yeah.
Cool beans. I've already made my donation. Aiden needs the best defense he can get. Just like Karen, he is going up against the machine of Norfolk County. And we know the lows they will stoop to get what they want. So if you could, and put Mazza in your donation comment so that we're able to track your donations.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, go ahead, Broken Bacon.
Yeah, it's sad. I really expected them to drop that shit after him, after Karen being found not guilty. I really believe that. But again, it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere. That joke they pulled with 4,000 blank pages, it just shows you that they don't care. A judge should just summarily execute the case, take it out back, old yellow that case, and say, "This is ridiculous." You don't, but it's the same with Lally. Hey, Lally, have you heard from the lab? Yeah, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. We heard that hearing after hearing, and then, well, he hasn't contacted the lab in a year. And it just shows you. And I talked to Aiden about this when I had him on. You really need a good DA candidate. I know that Mike had what's her name, Joanna
Perkins.
Yeah.
But she goes out there and say, "Well, I work with families." That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear someone saying, "Can you see this broom? I'm going to sweep it through Canton PD, Massachusetts State PD, the DA's office. I'm going to open every window, every door, and have some fresh air come in." I think that's going to be the most important thing for you Massachusettsans in the next election cycle, because Meatball Morrissey, if you don't have a good candidate, he's the good old guy. He will sweep right in. And I'm
well, that's
really
exactly
afraid
right. That's exactly right. Me and Mike on the Young Jerks had talked about this. He's had a candidate on yesterday, I believe, as well. And that's the they call it the establishment in politics, where usually that establishment person usually has enough votes, enough of a secure base to get in. And it really takes a lot to overtake them, and a lot of times it involves a lot of swing voters, as well as a lot of people that usually don't typically vote that are motivated to get out there. That's going to be definitely a very big thing to get him out of this seat. He needs to go. He's done irreparable damage to Norfolk County, and as evidenced by what's happened to Karen Reed and Aiden Carney, there's no telling what else he's done that we don't know about.
Sandra Birchmore.
Sandra Birchmore. Yep.
Juston Root. There you go.
Yeah, no state judge is still in the Birchmore case. What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
To the person in the chat asking about my shirt, this is the shirt that raises awareness for Juston Root. If you're not familiar, he was a 40-something-year-old man who had some.
I was trying to feature, this one. There we go.
There we go. He had some mental health issues and was at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston seeking help for a mental health crisis he was having. And to make a long story short, someone at the hospital who worked security called the police on Juston for the way he was behaving. But, remember, this is someone who had mental health problems. So he probably wasn't acting like, what you would expect someone to be behaving like at a hospital. Now he had with him a toy that looked like, possibly, if you twisted the argument as far as you could, a firearm. So when the police came, which included members of Boston PD and members of MSP, when those officers came, rather than trying to make efforts to de-escalate the situation at all, they just opened fired in the middle of a crowded parking garage on Juston. In that parking garage, someone else was hurt. For the valet.
Let me just fill in. So it was actually on the street near the appointment, like in front of the parking garage area. And it was actually a valet parking attendant who got hit by a ricochet of one of the police bullets. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, Michael Proctor told Juston's stepmother that Juston shot the parking attendant. It was Michael Proctor. Like, these names come back. But Juston never had a firearm. He had a paintball gun. It was clear. And the initial interaction with the security guard, which led to the calling of the police, he wasn't waving the paintball gun around. He wasn't pointing at anybody. They didn't even have a confrontation. They just had a conversation. And the security guard at this hospital where he was going for his mental health treatment, that's where the failures started here, right? Because that guy should have been trained in the fact that you're dealing with these patients who have these things. And there was no reason for the call to go in as like an emergency call, because there was nothing happening. It's such a shame because there was no reason for it at all.
And Juston was going there twice, 3 days a week anyway. He was a regular attendant at that hospital. So it's arguable that this security guard probably knew who Juston was too. He was there 2 days a week at least. So anywho, so I'm sorry, Jason, but that upsets me so much because he goes there so often. That I would imagine that a security guard who probably works a regular shift every single week had to have recognized Juston, had to have seen him before, probably knows, of some of the issues that he faces every day. So it just seems so odd that he would call that in.
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I'll keep it brief, Jason. Yeah. So just beyond the fact that they did shoot him, also the fact that they had shot him so many times was of it in itself. Whatever argument they could make to justify shooting, which is already obviously unacceptable. The fact that they had shot him so many times is even more preposterous. And the fact that there hasn't been more done to hold people accountable for this is my opinion, is just another one of the injustices in the state of Massachusetts, or even in our country to some degree based on states. What is the justification for pulling out your gun as an officer? Even that, you deploy it and say, hey, put whatever you have in your hand down. But just to pull your gun, just all of a sudden, just essentially recklessly and egregiously open fire to no end is insane. Jason, back to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's even worse than that, because that's what they did, because there were two scenes in this crime, right? So in Boston, that's what happened. They ignored every available police procedure to do things like clearing your backstop to make sure that there's no one behind. They fired wildly. But Juston fled and got in his car and drove away at a low speed, and they followed him at a low speed. They attempted to do a pit maneuver, which caused him to speed up. But the second scene in Brookline, if you can say, I can make an argument, right? I could make the argument myself. He had something that looked like a firearm. The police shot him. I see people talking about this case make this argument all the time. So if you take the first scene and say, okay, besides the fact that they ignored all of these things about de-escalation and dealing with people's mental illness, the cop saw a gun, he made a split-second decision, he fired. If you give them a pass on that first scene, the problem is what happened after that. When they got into a low-speed chase, they attempted to ram him with the car. He sped up and took off. At the second scene, he got out of the car. Now, he was hit when they shot him in Boston. It wasn't. He was basically crawling out of he crashed the car, was crawling out of the car in Brookline, was on the ground. An EMT who was shopping, it was in a grocery store parking lot at the edge. She came over and was rendering assistance. Now, I've spoken with her personally, and when she recounts her story, she says that Juston was basically dying. His eyes were rolling in the back of his head. He was taking his last breaths. And when the cops got there, instead of assessing the scene there and the level of danger there, what they did is they yelled at her to run. They stood in a semicircle around him, and they fired 31 bullets into his near lifeless body on the ground. Standing around in they were in so much danger that they were standing around in a semicircle above him, firing down. Those bullet fragments were found across the grocery store parking lot in the area where people walk, and because they also didn't clear their backstop again, they just fired wildly. One of the cops was issued
Bin Laden didn't get it that bad.
No, he didn't. And one of the cops was issued a 45, but he shot with a 40 caliber bullet. So he had somebody else's gun. There's missing body cam footage. It's all of the same. And because it ended in Norfolk County, Michael Morrissey's office investigated it. And every time there's a police officer that's in any kind of legal jeopardy, all of a sudden missing body cam footage, lying in police statements, no documentation of who was at the scene versus it's like every single little thing that we saw. This happens over and over and over and over again, but only in certain cases. That's
right.
But there's
that's
also
the funny
footage of some of these cops walking away from Juston's body saying, I mean, basically like violent locker room talk. I got that motherfucker and things like that. I mean, it was just, and this man was incapacitated. He could have been taken into custody and put in the hospital.
Right.
And
but I would have to defend the locker room talk a little bit, because if you've been out and it went pew pew around you, if let's say it had been the first encounter. But when you get into, trust me, I've said some really dumb shit when people shot at us, because you get up there. But the thing was, we had that lady who remember the taser woman who accidentally thought she had pulled her non-lethal and then pulled her hole puncher.
Oh right, in the car. Yep.
Yeah, and she got sent away for 5 years or something, I think. She's out now. Yeah. This to me is a pure execution. You could, as Jason says, it's a split decision. You see something, you act, because you never know. You would rather find out after that, whoopsie, instead of you want to look at your colleague and say, I probably should have done something. But when you go out, he's on the ground, an EMT is sitting next to him. He has no visible threat. I saw a police chase in Los Angeles the other day with a guy who drove like an idiot, and he got out of the car, puts his hands up, and they go tackle him, put him down, because that's what you should do. This guy is flat on the ground. You can have one guy with a long rifle covering the rest who can move up, take him into custody if they believe and that's the thing. But again, how can you have a culture where it's acceptable? How can you cover it up? It's not just one bad guy. It's just not two bad guys. And why isn't, that's the thing I don't get, because again, I know a little bit about your political system. It's way different than ours. Why isn't the governor with a flame torch in that DA's office saying, I don't want this in my state?
Yeah. And remember too, this man's hand was, basically non-existent from
the initial shots at the previous scene. I agree.
Correct. So from the previous engagement at the hospital, his hand was basically gone. And after the fact, they claimed that he reached for something. He couldn't have, because that hand wasn't there anymore. So it definitely was a cover-up. Morrissey was the one who spearheaded that investigation as well. So there's, one of your common denominators right there. And I believe it was within 30 days. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but within 30 days, everybody was reinstated for duty, which is highly unusual.
Completely cleared. Yep.
Why don't we do the good old New York things in the 70s? Just drop a piece at the side of him and said, yeah, he had this one.
No, it's actually funny that you say that.
It's a little harder to do that these days.
It's funny that you say that. So this guy who basically crashed because he had no use of his hands because they'd been shot through at the previous scene. At the first scene when he was fired, the paintball gun that he had in his hand, they basically did like a movie shot in that they shot the paintball gun out of his hand. And I don't, obviously you see that and people are like, oh, he was so skilled. And I'm like, yeah, it probably wasn't intentional. Like he was pointing, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't, in a live scene with adrenaline and everything else, it doesn't work that way. So he didn't have the paintball gun anymore. And there was a BB gun that was in his car. And now there's been 5 stories told by people at the scene as to where the BB gun was found in the bushes. It was on the ground under his body. It was all of these things. That dude had no use of his hands. And there was an EMT already rendering aid. There was no threat at the moment that they surrounded his body.
This was in 2020, February 7th.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
Yep. And so this isn't new. They've been doing this for a long time. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface. There are more cases. Every time we do a standout in front of the DA's office, somebody else shows up.
Is there a statute of limitations on investigating that? Like a federal statute of limitations on investigating that? Something like that?
No, it would be murder.
The problem is that you would need the feds to do it. There is no statute of limitations on murder. But what happened is these cops are all granted qualified immunity in civil lawsuits, and Jen took it all the way to the Supreme Court twice. So, she Jen Root is his sister, sorry. And there's been no accountability in this case at all. And it doesn't look like there will be. And why I admire Jen Root so much is that she has dedicated herself to raising awareness, the best sister anyone could have.
She's great. Yeah.
And she wants to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. And she wants people to be held accountable, even if she can't get it through the court system. So it's really wonderful person and horrible story.
She is. Hey, Nan, good to see you.
Hey guys. Sorry I'm late. Good to see you. I just like listening. I've been following. I just couldn't log on. Good. Thanks so much, Mazza, for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to see everyone's smiling faces.
Anytime.
And to anyone in the chat who says I look mad, it's just resting bitch face. I'm good.
We weren't smiling till you got here, so that's why it's good to see our smiling face.
There we go.
Right.
There we go.
Right, exactly. No, it's open court today, so basically our show is basically like an open discussion. I call it open court for 2 reasons. Number one, they call it open court in basketball, but then also we talk about court cases. So open court is my terminology for open discussion. Great panel here today. Broken Baker, not Haley Walbrick, a.k.a. Jason Broyles-Britt happens, El Jefe de Verdad-esque from the Law Institute of the Glarer Institute of what's it called? The Glarer Institute. What's it called? The Institute of Law and stuff. And the
You're doing great, man. Keep it going.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm trying. me and the Glarer had a little conversation about Happy Gilmore too. I think he made it 20 minutes before he was losing his mind. I made it 4 minutes before stopping and messaging Glarer. It only took me 4 minutes to. I have not put it back on yet. I'm going to probably try.
But I did.
Tonight.
I did let it go. All I did was tweet 20 minutes in, but I did let it go. And I'm going to say I'm glad I did because it ended up finally picking up the momentum of, you know, dumb comedy, but still the original Happy Gilmore charm, you know, that was still there. So I enjoyed it after a while, but I mean, do I have any desire to watch it again? Probably not. But it's all right. It was cool.
Yeah. The Glarer Institute of Law and stuff. That's what it is. The Glarer Institute of Law. Finally got the words in the right order. Weekend at Bernie's 2 was one of the biggest disappointments in my entire life. I remember renting that movie and being like, okay, the first one was a classic. I sit down and watch Weekend at Bernie's 2. I'm like, what am I watching? One of the worst sequels ever made.
How you gonna kill him twice?
Right. I love that you actually had expectations for that in the first place.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
That's the thing I really love. I really wish 2025, let that be the last year of all these shitty remakes. Yeah. Let's get some good movies again. Let's go back and
I'll be right back, guys. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
All right.
Let's go back and have some fun 90-minute action movies like Predator or Commando and stuff like that.
There you go.
You go in, eat a bucket of popcorn, and you go out. And you don't have to think about anything else than, I really wish I was as jacked as Arnold.
Right.
I think you are.
There you go.
That's because you can only see me in the good angle. I'm as Plevin told me, you're fat. Yeah, I am.
I don't.
Your showdown with Plevin was legendary.
Yeah, I talked about it when I had Aiden on. There was a lot of new people who found out that I did that. Got a lot of traction after that, and I really wish he didn't act like a 2-year-old, but also it was pretty good for my channel.
Yeah,
he was an idiot.
Oh, your showdown was amazing. You know, most people didn't want to debate him because it's just like, why? But you did it, and it was just like it was. There's some riotous things that you said to him on that show. But
the funny thing is, I was talking to my mods, and I said, "I'm gonna smack his face off." Sorry for all the not Sunday. Yeah, but I really want to smack him down because that book is ridiculous and he's dumb. And then I said, "No, let me be fair. I'm not gonna do the thing." I'd seen Tom had that interview with Grant where they were out having a cup of coffee and actually showed that you can be civil even though you're on the other side. Grant is still an idiot and probably lived off lead paint his entire childhood, but still, Wendy Murphy is his mom, so he actually came out pretty good compared to her. So I said, no, I'm going to be honest and do an interview, and I'm going to be open about, I don't like your book, but I want to talk about why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? I talked to him in the green room, and he said, well, I think it's fair. I can ask you questions. I said, well, I'm interviewing you about a book, but yeah, sure, but I don't want to get into a shouting match. 3 minutes, and we were yelling at each other. And I don't
even think it was 3 minutes. It was quick.
Yeah, the worst part was, but I wish I was that smart that I planned my comeback when he said, "Oh, you don't understand English." No, it's my third language, but I do it better than you. I really wish that.
Oh.
Yeah, and I wish I was that smart that I thought of it. It just slipped out.
That was the first thing I thought of when Buchanan was on the stand talking about English being his third language.
I got a lot of tags on Twitter that day too. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, a third language, just like you.
Kevin is very conflicting for me because it combines one of the things I love the most and one of the things I hate the most: boobs and liars. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you do? I'll never get over those pictures of him outside court with the man boobs and whatever.
That day where he was pulling his shirt up on screen, and I was just like, and we all kind of have those awkward things where you're, oh, I shouldn't have done that on stream, but at least I haven't de-bloused myself on stream. But
wait, who did that?
Plevin has one where he shows the full moob. Trust me, it's just like when you see those, oh, we had topless protesters. It's always the moves you don't want to see.
All you'd see with me is the world's best farmer tan. So I'm going to the beach in a week, and I'm sure between my bald head and my white skin, I'm going to be reflecting sunlight in every direction. So if you go to the beach, I'm not going to say which one, but if you go to the beach and you see like a bright light walking down the sand, it's probably me.
Mazza, I'm going to jump off because I have a hot date with a young woman in half an hour?
About 35 minutes.
Don't tell me you told her you were shipping out again.
I'm gonna use that, and hopefully her husband's not gonna come in and say, "Yeah, but I'm not." You never know. Thank you so much for having me on, and always a pleasure to meet all of you. And the Glarer, before I go, me and Valhalla is we have the baked goats. We are ready to rumble whenever you and your tag team partner is gonna show up in the ring. I'm thinking maybe we're not going to go WWE. We're probably going to be a local indie.
What are we talking about right now?
Well, we're going to walk into Culture Club. Do you really want to hurt me? What's your who are your tag partner, and what are your intro song?
My intro music would probably, now that I've had time to think about it, would probably be Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now.
Who are you going to bring on as a tag team partner?
A tag team partner?
The Texas Tornado.
The Texas Tornado. I'd probably get Grant. He'd probably be my tag team partner. I feel like me and him would have like a Booker T Gold Dust kind of vibe going on, you know.
Love that tag team, by the way. I love that tag team. Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time, like indisputably.
I think we really need to do this, and I want to volunteer. I want to be the guest ring announcer. So, and now from the halls of YouTube, here they are. You know, I'm ready. Let's do it.
You know, you're gonna get that question every time you go on panel the next 2 months.
Who's your tag team partner?
No, what's your wrestling name?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what to do with anything this guy was asking me, or I had no idea what to do.
It was better than when he invited me on and he spent the first 3 minutes yelling at chat and I was doing this. Hello? Can you hear me?
I mean, I believe it, but it's like, Jesus, you know?
Kurt's a little different.
I'm going to jump off and I'm going to see Britt in a little bit.
I find him harmless.
Yeah,
you know?
It's just fun afterwards. Right. Nan, so nice to meet you again, and I'm leaving not because of you, but
take
to
care,
leave room for you. Having fun.
I'll see you in a little bit, Baker.
All right, Broken Baker, ladies and gentlemen, our guy. I don't have the I need the Glarer applause, but I don't have that thing. But we'll just do the manual applause. So we got that. So we got a great panel here today. So many great guests. It's a rainy day here in Massachusetts. It's a great day to be indoors and talk about basically whatever we want to. We've talked about Juston Root. We've talked about movies. We've talked about military. Let's start talking a little bit more about Aiden Carney and what he's going through right now. This is really, for many people that followed Karen. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mazza. It's necessary that I interrupt you because I have to explain myself. I'm going to be, I realize I've already jumped off twice. I feel it's only fair to explain why I keep having to do that. I'm getting an Instacart delivered right now, and I need them to pick me up cigarettes because you can't order cigarettes. And so there's this mission, you know, these things, even though they should be easy, never are. So I have to contact this person to tell them what kind. She has to send me her Cash App info. I have to send her the Cash App money for it. I have to now make sure that she understands which door to come to, because this is not the door to usually deliver to. And now I have to send her a picture of the door to make sure that she comes to the right door. And then I'm going to have to get up again after I've had to get off here and do this stuff. And when she gets here, I'm going to have to get off that one last time. And then, you know, so I apologize to you and the chat for this.
No problem at all. You got to do what you got to do, Will. No problem at all. No problem
I feel it was only fair that I explain instead of just keep doing it. You know,
your life complicated today. It's
a little complicated today. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can't get cigarettes delivered through Instacart, so I have to like hustle this shit. You know,
and then you got to give her a good tip, right? Because she did it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. She's doing something she's not supposed to do, and she's
you
not
just
good
told
at
the whole internet.
Yeah.
Oh well, it doesn't matter. I doubt. I mean, it's not the whole internet.
They're going to bring the Mellow. They're going to bring the whole internet into court. So we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, like I can't walk to the store and get cigarettes, and so it's like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm down to like I would just wait and just like Uber somewhere and take care of like a few things that I need to do, but I'm down to like one cigarette. That's not good.
Yeah, no, not at all. You got to make sure you got them on. Once you get on those cigarette kicks, you got to have them on supply, or you just kind of, it's tough there. So no, understandable. Well, no problem at all. The Turtle Boy, Aiden Carney, is ongoing right now with many court dates. I think August 13th is the next upcoming court date. The defense fund for Aiden Carney is pinned to the top of the chat. Cherry, who is a very notable mod for the Glare, is with us today, and also mods for me. I appreciate it, Cherry. She's been sharing that link as well.
Notable.
Comment Mazza.
One way to put it.
Glare and Cherry troll each other between host and mod more than you'll ever see in the history of any YouTube show as well.
Never.
But if you want to,
abusive is what it is.
Oh, it's amazing. She told you to quit complaining moments ago as well. She goes, "Don't tell people I know him," she says in response to you. Well, oh man. That's all right. No, I love the back and forth. Go ahead, Jason.
No, so you did you were kind of segueing into Aiden's case and into the things that are happening there. And I think it's important, we've already kind of talked about Juston Root this morning, and we've talked about the DA's office. His case is a little bit different in that there's even more nonsense because they've farmed out their normal fuckery to the special prosecutors, and one of whom has been an unethical dirtbag of a lawyer his entire career. The other one, who's a former judge who appears to be sunsetting in some way, like something is happening with his brain. And it doesn't make a lot of sense so you have all of these. It seems like in that office, they're investing in doing everything but the work of the district attorney's office, everything but investigating cases and prosecuting them and doing these things. They're taking every step to avoid actually just doing what they should. We're covering these cases where we see this corruption and everything else. There are a number of other cases I hear from people in Norfolk County every day who can't get their very real crimes solved. They can't get justice in their cases. They can't get perpetrators charged. We were outside one of Aiden's hearings, and there was a woman that came out. And it's funny because I have the court file right here on my desk because I've been meaning to dig into it. But there's a woman that came out, had kind of an altercation with the court officers. And what a day to do that, because there was a natural crowd. There was a line of us standing, waiting to get into the hearing. So she automatically had like this crowd that was tuned into justice. And while the court officers did a great job, she was complaining about this. I can't get justice, and they're dropping the charges against this guy. And it was a black woman, and she was like, would this be happening if I were white? And we went through all this. As it turns out, I dug into the case a little bit, and the case was dismissed because he was deemed incompetent to stand trial. Right. So there wasn't a real lot of allegations about the facts of the case. He was just deemed incompetent to stand trial. And so what they did is they dismissed the case and did nothing. So you have this person, and we're talking about he was going after women, random women, 15 women with a baseball bat. Like, this is a violent criminal who very well may be criminally insane, but the solution is for them is to say, oh yeah, there's nothing we can do, so he's insane and we're just going to dismiss it. How about following through with like the civil commitment? But they don't take the time to do the things that will actually protect the community from hardcore criminals and from all these other people. And then they don't protect them from the cops who are doing basically the same set of things, where they're out here framing people and getting involved in standing around a man's lifeless body on the ground and firing 31 shots down into him. So
yeah,
it's a much bigger problem, but it's interesting how in Aiden's case, on top of that, they've kind of farmed it out to the clown show and made this big spectacle. I'm always floored by how they can be so brazen and nobody cares. Like they just do whatever they want, and they do it in broad daylight.
Right.
It's
right.
Crazy
That's exactly. And like so many of us that were out there, prior to Turtle Boy's initial arrest in October, and then when he was sent to jail in December of 2023, there were so many of us theorizing what they did to Karen and how they misused power and authority to basically put Karen in the situation she was in. Now, for most of us, none of us knew about this at the time it happened and didn't eventually learn of this case till down the road. And really, I say it basically, in a sense, happened under the cover of darkness, what they did to Karen. But for Turtle Boy, a lot of us saw this actually happening in real time. Aiden's reporting, his shows, charges come his way, initial arrests, initial jailing, all that happens in real time. And I remember one of the posts I wrote in October, I right after he got arrested the first time, I said, make no mistake about it. If what's happening to Aiden Carney right now does not validate everything you've said about what they've done to Karen Read, look no further, because this absolutely validates that. It absolutely does, because that's all they did was they used power. And then you look at what they did going into December and what they kind of set the table to get him thrown in jail. They kind of used various levels of strategic measures, including individuals that they were coordinating with to make this happen. And if they're able to do what they did to Aiden Carney, then how can anyone in their right mind not believe that they would do something similar to Karen Read to try to frame her for the murder of John O'Keefe? And in the end, good triumphed over evil. And this will happen again with Aiden Carney as well. He will prevail in this. And I do believe he's going to walk on everything. It's an elongated road, unfortunately. And realistically, they're embarrassing themselves every time they try to go up in court and try to say Aiden did this, Aiden did that. All the charges are absolutely ridiculous, preposterous, in fact. And it is sickening to see him continue to go through this. It is. And all these charges that sit out there, I think it's 15 charges remaining, carrying over 100 years plus possible jail/prison time. It's probably prison time. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it also shows you the way they're acting and using their power, how much they're afraid of him because of how he popularized the Karen Read movement. They tried to get Karen quietly in trial with no support. They never could have imagined she'd have the amount of supporters. Over $1 million were raised for Karen Read, and Aiden Carney really was the godfather of all of that, in the sense that he kind of got this moving. People like myself started doing shows because of an article I read about it. Well, I did shows before, I covered Karen Read, but I started covering the Karen Read case on my show after that. And, a show like myself, a show like The Glare, a show like Britt Happens, all, people like yourself, Jason and Nan, have come on shows to raise awareness. We've all kind of had a lot of fundraisers, and we raised a lot of money. Outside of what Aiden did, it became a hierarchy or a pyramid of people that had the ability to raise awareness and create conversation and raise money for Karen Read, with all the people that also followed this case that are in shows like this right now that were able to make those donations. And they now had a nightmare, which was now we wanted to get this woman to plea out. She wouldn't do it. Aiden Carney has basically risen this thing up to basically taking on a life of its own. I think even for Aiden, I'm sure he would probably say, hey, I figured he probably thought he knew he could get this thing popularized, but I think that this thing, I think he had said at one time, this thing took on a life of its own, where it was just show after show, person after person, supporter after supporter, from across Massachusetts to across the country to across the world, and donations were rolling in all across the board. And there have been people out there that say, well, I support Karen Read, but I don't support Aiden Carney. I find that I'll have to say, I don't want to say I find that offensive, but I think people need to look a little bit more deeper if they believe that, just for one reason. Think about all that Aiden Carney did. I'm
offended just by the sheer ignorance behind it.
Yeah.
I'm offended by the stupidity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because this guy, he put himself on the line. This is a man with kids, who's enjoying a fantastic vacation right now. And he ended up spending 60 days in jail over this thing, just for simply reporting information. And you know, journalists have knocked on people's doors before. Fox News and all kinds of local networks have knocked on people's doors at their own residence.
The problem isn't that Turtle Boy knocked on doors. The problem is that mainstream media didn't.
Yeah,
that's the issue here.
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point. Exactly, they should have been, and they weren't.
Well, remember what he said about his rolling rally too, which was, you know, I've seen dozens of people standing outside of Supreme Court justices' homes protesting decisions they've made. So why can't we, you know, as long as we're not on their property and as long as we're being peaceful, then let's go ahead and let them know that we disagree with their conduct and that we're watching them. And, you know, that turned into all this. It's not against the law to do any of what Aiden has done, and the standing laws in Massachusetts have been so perverted to make this work against Aiden. So I would say to those people who say, well, I supported Karen, but I choose not to support Aiden because of some of his tactics or whatever, I would say the same thing that I always did about Karen. It wasn't about Karen, it was about what's happening to Karen. And in that same regard, it's not as much about Aiden as much as it is about what the Commonwealth is doing to him.
And you wouldn't know about Karen if it wasn't for Aiden's tactics. So, you know, it's kind of like Nicholson in A Few Good Men, where he's just like, I don't have the time or the inclination to explain, you know, someone, you know, how I defend a nation, you know, the flag, the blanket of freedom that I provide, and then they question the manner in which I provide it. You know,
want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
You need me on that wall.
So I provided you information that, I provided you information. If I'm Aiden, I'm like, I provided you information that nobody else would, and you have the nerve to insult me for it and to like cheer for me getting thrown in jail for it. Are you kidding?
And that's the difference, right? So the difference is when you have, I don't care if people like Aiden Carney. I don't care if they don't want to watch the show or they're offended because he says mean words or do all these things. I had this conversation in person when there was a dust up with some of the boots on the ground and Aiden early on along the way. And I went down to one of the pizza nights, and Aiden had a hearing the next day. And I ended up by going a day early and staying over because I wanted to go have this conversation, which is, you don't have to like him. No one has said you like whoever you want in the world, but here's what they're doing. And that's not okay. Like, you can separate your feeling. I happen to like him, but you can separate your feelings. Plenty of people don't, no problem. But the next day I said, you have to show up, because you're showing up to say the district attorney's office can't frame people for crimes they didn't commit, to shut them up. You have to stand up for the First Amendment. All of the rolling rally stuff, all of that stuff, it's all on the traditional public forum. They're on sidewalks, the most protected area for free speech in our, in our whole Constitution is the traditional public forum. And for them to come and do this with a law that's already constitutionally sketchy in terms of referencing feelings, people's subjective feelings, as a listener of the speech instead of the intent of the speaker, and all of these things that go into that, it's absurd. And I'm pleased to announce that next day at his court hearing, all of the people that I heard weren't going to show up, with very limited exceptions, were there, because this issue is bigger than Aiden Carney. So if anyone's listening in the audience and you don't like Aiden Carney, well, you should give your donation and then donate again for good measure, because you're not supporting just Aiden Carney. Right. You're not supporting him at all. You're supporting free speech and the Constitution and the rights that we all have as Americans to be free from government interference with our speech. It's such an important issue that it's so much larger than him. That's why we're here doing this. Like, that's what this is about. It's especially as content creators or people that go on channels. This is a threat to all of us.
Yeah. Oh, I 1,000% agree. Nan, I want to defer to you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I'm going surfing, and I wanted to wait for the right wave to hop in on. because I love the collaboration here. Just have a few comments. One, I agree with what everyone's been saying, but also with regard to the charges against Aiden, you know, when I think about the exposure that he has legally and all of the years of imprisonment, if he were to be found guilty on them, I really try to think about the larger public issue here, which is First Amendment, freedom of speech, being able to comport oneself as an independent journalist. And then I think of the small, select few local individuals from a highly interconnected family with a lot of clout in that community who is using the statute, which I also, Jason, find to be constitutionally questionable concerning witness intimidation, as a sword against him. And then I start to think about the fact that that witness intimidation statute makes me think of what Sean Paul Reyes, I believe his name is, the gentleman, Long Island Audit, because in his situation, and I don't really want to detract from Aiden speak, but in his situation in Connecticut, he, as we all probably have seen by now, was literally spit on by a Connecticut state trooper. And the way the statute is written in that state concerning someone spitting on a, quote, civilian, that does not constitute any criminal act that is actionable, as we would say. So that's another statute when you think of it in Connecticut. But yet if Sean Paul had spit on the officer, that is actionable on a criminal front. So these statutes don't just change on their own. They need to be challenged. You know, legislative, anyone who participates in the legislative process in any state, whether it's legislators, lobbyists, voters, etc., they all need to kind of group together to make change. That's why you'll see referendums on election ballots. You'll start to see more, hopefully, articles from both mainstream media and independent media on these important issues, go to local town halls and the like to really effectuate change. The statute in terms of witness intimidation that Aiden is facing, it's only being yielded by a small group of individuals. And then when we go further and you overlay what has happened to Karen Reed, which obviously we're all happy about, that she was acquitted on the major charges. And I dare say that she was convicted on the OUI charge simply because it was, you know, they needed to throw a bone of some sort to the family, or maybe the jury felt like, okay, we had enough here to convict on that. And I don't think they did, but that's okay. When we look at what happened with Karen, I can tell you as a litigator of 25 years that the Commonwealth and the prosecutor have lost interest in Aiden. So while they'll never, in my opinion, at this juncture, voluntarily dismiss the charges against him right now, there is no zeal, there is no interest in pushing further against him with aggression, with the fierce approach that they've taken previously, because now she's been acquitted and right now they kind of want to just put him off. That's why there's a consistent, from my observation, delay in providing information to his attorneys, Bradel and Betterow. You've got the shenanigans that happened 2 weeks ago with the $5,000 page document dump, 4,000 pages of which were, quote, blank or nondescript or nothing on them. That's ridiculous, by the way. Cosgrove should have checked. He should have reviewed each page before there was a disclosure. The way it works in criminal courts, civil courts, municipal courts, no one should be getting up in front of a judge and saying, you know, we've just provided X or we're about to provide Y without having looked through it. And all they keep doing is wasting Aiden's time, his attorney's time, the money that, you know, one of the reasons why we're here today is to hopefully raise some funds for him. So all in all, it is a fight worth fighting. I will do whatever I can to help support Aiden because, as I think we may all agree, much of what he's facing has far more reaching ramifications on all of our lives moving forward than that Karen was facing herself.
That's huge. Britt, did you want to? I know, Britt, you have limited time. Did you want to respond?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a minute. So, Nan, I loved what you said about that, because what's decided in court in one case is used later in other cases. So if Aiden is convicted, or if there's some kind of ruling that favors what the Commonwealth is doing here, that could lead to the exact same statutes being weaponized against other independent journalists.
Yes.
Like Brian LTL, like Mazza, especially in the state of Massachusetts. So, you know, what happens to Aiden, it's kind of like if you come after one of us, you come after all of us, so to speak, because
that's how it should be looked at.
Yeah. So I'm highly on the side of Aiden, not just for, you know, who he is, but also because of who the rest of us are, because we all have a stake in this. Because if the Commonwealth wins here, they're going to have the wind in their sails to start coming after other independent journalists. So we all need to stand arm in arm for Aiden. I do need to go. I've got Baker waiting on me. So I really appreciate you having me on, Mazza. Again, I'm sorry for having to jump in late for my technical difficulties. It wouldn't be a day in the life of Britt Happens without some technical difficulties. So but good. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you to everybody who donated. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
Bye, Brett.
Britt Happens, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to follow her channel, subscribe to her channel on X, YouTube. And we thank her for joining us here today on MazzaMedia. We have Nan Gallagher, attorney, the Glarer from the Glarer Institute of Law and Stuff, and then the Jason Broyles himself. Finally we finally get an episode where him and I are on the same show for the first time in a while, which has been great. Yeah.
How did that never happen yet?
I know.
The best thing is that we had we were going to do this. We were going to do a dinner, if you remember, Mazza. We were going to go out with Brian and Lauren. I think we were going to go have a steak, and I had the date wrong, and so like I was in Dedham, and I drove all the way to the restaurant, and I was like there, and I was doing the text, "Hey, are you guys here yet? Like, where are you?" And it was a week. I was a week early. It was like the following week.
I remember that. I felt so bad. I was like, "Oh no, poor Jason."
No, I mean, no one gave me the wrong date. It was me.
No, it's all good.
By the way, guys.
Go ahead,
sorry, Mark. No, it's your show. Don't let me interrupt you.
Jason, what city is that? Someone was asking in the background there. Is that?
Oh, that's Hartford. Yeah, it's Hartford.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to do a slightly different image, because if I sit the wrong way, the tower comes like straight up out of my head like this. So we have this thing going on.
Exactly.
People are going around calling me dickhead, I think, because it's or maybe they were just
dickhead anyway.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
All of our cell phones are pinging because of you right now.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Exactly.
You know, I had a question for all of you, because there was another point I wanted to make. And when I was mentioning before about the Commonwealth and the district attorney, in my observation, losing interest a little bit and gusto in going against Aiden, he's certainly not a priority to them. An additional factor which really compounds that to me, and I know has been discussed on several streams, is the fact that KP, or I don't know if we're calling her Krusty Panties on your show, but I will simply say she's always been a liability to them all along, but especially now that she's been convicted of her most recent crime, they don't have any interest in her from what I observe, and at least any interest in her anymore. Her credibility is still shot, if not further shot. And I just wanted to kind of get all of your take on that, because once she pled, and it's very common where prosecutors are like, I've got a lot of risk if I'm putting all my eggs in that witness's basket. And she clearly does exhibit what lawyers.
She had
Yeah.
She has a public defender, right?
That's my understanding is she has a public defender unless someone is GoFunding her.
Public defender case like hers is totally going to tell her to plea. Let's get real.
But so that case that she did just plea in, and I agree with you. She already was a liability to them, and it's been getting worse as they're pressing for this discovery. You know, this is so weird because Baker said something before he left, like, when's the governor of Massachusetts going to step in and do this? And I've always had this thing, even in the Karen Reed case, I was like, at some point, the political calculation is we got to get the hell out of this. Like, we're in this situation, we're getting hammered every day. The state police, the Massachusetts State Police cannot make a post on social media without there immediately being 500 comments talking about Sandra Birchmore, Karen Reed, Enrique Delgado Garcia. Like, they cannot make a post, and they keep trying. And I try to find every one of them and comment on them too.
I love that. I love
Me too.
When I see them, I can't help but comment.
Right.
You know, like it just feels almost irresponsible to just scroll by the Massachusetts State Police acting like some fucking, oh, we're celebrating. Sorry about my language, man.
No.
Okay.
Celebrating, you know, Pride Month. You know what I mean? Like, really? Okay, that's cool. But what happened to Enrique?
What do you have to be proud of? Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're proud of what? Framing an innocent woman. You're proud of framing an innocent woman who was murdered of her own murder. You're proud of that. You know, I mean,
and it's almost like T-ball because they put up these posts. They put up like a help wanted post, like, oh, we're not going to comment on the fact that, oh yeah, you need help because all of these troopers are going to jail or getting reassigned because of this. Like, everything they do, they seem to have teed it up perfectly to get smacked back. And it's so satisfying. My overall point, though, is I always said in her case, at some point, the attorney general, the governor, someone is going to step in and say the political calculations here are that we're losing and we're getting battered every day and it's time to end this. And now I really think that about her case. But the problem is they're in this one party rule state where basically they're almost guaranteed reelection, just like we've seen with Morrissey. We talked about the Juston Root case. The attorney general was Juston Root's city councilor in Boston and had a brother who had a very similar circumstance and would talk to Jen Root all the time, was her biggest champion. They would go back and forth. She becomes the attorney general. She stopped taking Jen Root's calls immediately. So these people are ingrained in these positions, and there is no political calculation that's going to force them to take action, because all they have to do is run for a re-election, and there's no serious challenger from another party. It's over, and they just get reelected. So, and who's the biggest supporter of these politicians? The police unions. You have all of these things, and at the end of the day, they're like, there's nothing you can do about it. We're going to do it in broad daylight.
So frustrating. And it really then makes me think about trying to replace the district attorney up in Norfolk County. You know, from what I've observed, and admittedly, I did not hear, I think there was a candidate who went on yesterday on the Young Jerks. I have not listened to that yet, but I plan to. But my observation has been, in terms of candidates coming forward, they seem a little passive. They seem a little behind the eight ball. None of them came forward when all of this was, making headlines in Karen Reed's case. So I hope that trend changes. And then I know there's two that are at least more prominent now, that are two candidates who might try to uproot Morrissey, but I really hope they step it up. And then as far as Aiden's case is concerned, the more I think about it, I just say to myself, he needs that army. He really does need the momentum of everyone who was behind. And I know we were talking about this before, but everyone who was behind Karen, like it was only a month ago, guys. Like I know he could use that support to just move forward with a team of people. That energy, it hasn't fully dissipated. I don't think it ever will. And, you know, like you were, I think you were saying it, Jason, you may not like him, but what he's fighting for and what he's done is so broad and important from a societal standpoint that it really would make sense for everyone to team up together to try to fight for him. And the last point I would make on this, I personally find it just a little frustrating that more mainstream media is focusing on him now. I'm happy they are, don't get me wrong, but where were they when he needed them sooner? You know, he was just kind of a footnote in Karen Read's story, just a little afterthought sometimes in some mainstream media stories before she was acquitted. Now
are they covering him though?
Little bit.
Let's think about it, because I mean, they're mentioning him. They're mentioning in very loose updates that he has a hearing and what happened at the hearing, more or less, give or take. But they don't cover the Lindsay stuff. They don't cover all of the, you know, the stuff that proves that would absolutely convince the public there's something really shady going on between the Turtle Boy case and the Karen Read case. If you put these pieces together for the public, you're going to get their attention.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen because it's too insane. So
I think the issue with local. Go ahead, Will.
Go ahead. No.
Okay, I think
please.
I'll make it quick. Yeah, I think the issue with local media too is they only cover every story that they cover just enough to get it to fill their airspace. That's always been an issue too. Is basically their concern is more about advertisements and TV time and making their money than it is actually doing any concrete journalism, which someone like Aiden or Sean Paul Reyes, from Connecticut are doing, which is actually doing old-fashioned, classic, traditional journalism, where these news media outlets these days are all about their quick sound bites, their quick little opening segment with their breaking news. Here's your weather update today: breaking heat all over Boston. And then earlier today, the police were in Cambridge for a quick. You know, they're so caught up in like these quick sound bites. Really, to their credit, Boston 25 and Ted Daniel, or you know, Boston Undercover, whatever they call it, 25 Undercover. They're the only really network locally that does any semblance of that. Which why Ted Daniel is one of my favorites, just because I think he does at least what he can do within the restrictions of that. But I think the overall problem is these local media outlets. They don't want to cover anything in depth. Even when they talk about Karen Read, Boston 25 again was the only one that did those interviews. The rest of them, it's like this minimalist coverage. This is what happened today in court. Karen and attorney said this. The prosecution said this. There was even with Aiden. This happened to Aiden today. It's everything's so minimally covered.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's every other story they cover too. They do it quickly. They don't do any kind of in-depth journalism at all. It's almost like a 30-minute commercial, the news at noon, the news at 5, the news at 6. And it's never really what we need, which is why it's so important for folks like yourself and everybody else, whether you have your show or you're frequently on a show, either or. This is why it's so important for us to do what we do, because we're creating that commentary, we're creating that dialogue about these issues that need to be discussed more in depth, because they're not going to do what you do, Will, right? Which is actually talk about this stuff for more than 2 minutes and actually go into the nuts and bolts of the whole thing, read the documents, take calls, hear public opinion. It's like we almost have to create that forum for ourselves, which is why I believe our support of Karen Read collectively, and this is not just for people that had shows, but for people that tuned into shows. This is why all of us together as hosts, viewers, and guests, that all of us collaboratively did what we did. And because everyone knows that, you know, why am I going to tune into Court TV or tune into Boston 25 when I can watch the Glarer tonight? He has Nan Gallagher and Jason Broyles on the show. Why not watch that show instead? Because I know that they're going to give me the God's honest truth. They're going to give me the in-depth analysis, which is what's so great. You know, and you know, it's been a wonderful thing for Karen. And I think that's what's great about, like Nan said earlier, continuing to support Aiden Carney, because why forsake Aiden Carney? Considering the fact that he was on the front lines, he was basically the Spartacus of the Karen Read movement, which is basically entails being on the front lines, building the army. And at some point, you know, I believe the real life Spartacus was, you know, eventually killed, but, you know, not that I'm making that comparison, obviously, but, you know, they are trying to kill his freedom in a sense. You know, they're trying to kill his freedom. They're after him. And why leave a soldier behind? that led us all to understand the story at a higher level. Will, back to you. I've said enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. I've made this point many times, and I will continue to do so, because I think it's one of the most important details about this entire scenario when it comes to mainstream media covering Turtle Boy, or their lack of covering Turtle Boy. And the fact is that mainstream media, or Turtle Boy, and what Turtle Boy represents, which is independent media, he and what he represents right now poses the biggest threat to mainstream media. It's the only thing that they're afraid of, if you really think about it. They've already lost the public trust. So it's really important. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do or what to say, but the result would be that if everyone collectively conducted themselves in an ethical manner, don't hold back your free speech, but I mean, tell the truth, be honest, always show receipts, things of this nature. Make sure you tell the whole story. Don't speculate irresponsibly. All of these things. If we made it a habit, all of us, and lived by these ethics as YouTubers and independent journalists, that public trust that mainstream media has already dropped, that's just sitting there, that's how we pick it up. That's how we get it. So that's very, very, very important. I mean, now again, that may never happen and probably never will, but I'm telling you, that's how it gets done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, on that point, as I'm sitting here with my media ethics, a guide for professional conduct in journalism.
There's even a book. I mean, of course there's a book.
Literally on my desk, and it is something that we think about a lot. And look at this local media landscape, right? Everyone used to have like a newspaper in their town. Most towns, if they got significant size, you might have had 2 or even 3 newspapers in your town. And you watch as all the newspaper business has died, print is gone, then you have radio and TV, and then you watch them slash all of their local reporting staff to almost nothing. These outlets survive on press releases from the government. This is how they get their news.
Sure. You're going to tell me there's not some up and coming reporter at Channel 25, at Channel 5, at Channel 10, right, in Boston there, who's telling their editor, or whatever local paper, who's telling their editor, we need to really get into this Turtle Boy story. We can have an ongoing article, an ongoing column on this Turtle Boy stuff, and it will sell.
Right. This is content. This is content for a period of time. Yeah.
And it's just trashy enough to make it entertaining because of all the crusty panties, the Grant Smith Ellises, the Wendy Murphys, all of that shit. You add all of that shit in there, it's just trashy enough to be entertaining. But the reason why it should happen is because it's so important.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's so important. Our freedom of speech is at stake. All of ours is.
Right. We have these natural allies, right? They should feel about us that we feel about them. They should be thankful that we're here, that we're telling these stories, that we're doing this. And there should be this level of support that crosses the bridge from independent media to mainstream media. But
instead, the editor is like, no, we're not doing that. But some hotshot is going, that's stupid. We can sell papers this way.
Well, and then that hotshot though becomes the next. I mean, it happened for at least a period of time, like when Jess was at Fall River Reporter, right? She got them to start covering these stories. Now they eventually bailed. They eventually bailed too. But this is what happens, and maybe that hotshot is the next Glarer because he worked in that industry, and he's like, I'm tired of not being able to tell the truth, and here we go. So you see it. That
the other thing. I was going to say that too, because I'm sitting here and I'm wondering why Ted Daniel, after his experience with Karen Reed, doesn't just go, fuck this, I'm going solo. Why am I, you know what I'm saying? Unless he has ambitions within mainstream media to rise, that makes sense. That's great.
Yeah.
But I looking at Turtle Boy and the success that he's getting from just being like, dude, I'm just doing me. You know what I'm saying? This is what I do. And they want to throw me in jail for it. You know, if I'm a young mainstream media reporter, I'm inspired by this to some degree, you know, and I'm going, look at how this guy is making, you know, do I want to settle for just a salary, or do I want to be able to tell the truth how I want to tell it without anybody telling me how to say it, you know, and answering to nobody and sell merch? And why the fuck would I not do that? You know,
I could speak to that issue, Will, which was for me personally speaking, I wasn't ready to make a change in my professional status, meaning leave a firm and get a paycheck and go out on my own and do things my way with values I believe in until I was ready. So maybe someone like Ted Daniel and others might feel that way. You know, there's a huge risk, and then there's also the feeling of, well, there's no safety net if I walk away. And, you know, so maybe, I mean, I don't mean to psychoanalyze him, but I think people may have a perspective like that. And, or someone suddenly gets fired and they say, I could do this on my own. And suddenly they have a voice that resounds. But I also was making notes while we were all talking, you guys were talking and I was listening. I look at this opportunity right now, which appears to be like a very slow news cycle. I just think it seems slow. Maybe I'm living under a rock, but with a slow news cycle, I see the story. Mainstream media needs a story. So there is, among many, but a really good story to be told right now. With all of the scrutiny on Morrissey and the overspending on Brennan, the overspending on Aperture, all that was a cost to the taxpayers, the fact that Karen was sham prosecuted and they just wouldn't give up and had to do the retrial, with all of that attention starting to turn more so to Morrissey now, the story in my mind is, let's look at really frivolous prosecutions that are going on. Add to that the fact that we have seen and are seeing other law enforcement ensnared in problematic matters like the Miles King matter, the Brian Walsh matter, Sandra Birchmore, and others. So there's a story to be told. I mean, I don't know if you all read the Vanity Fair article by Julie Miller that came out earlier last week or late last week, where she kind of went through and interconnected a lot of the issues involving Karen Reed and the other law enforcement matters, or the other matters that are criminal matters where law enforcement overlaps. But that was a really good recitation of the interconnectedness. So mainstream media could see a story here and say, now we're going to legitimately and keep our honor, fight for what we find sells papers or gets clicks or gets views, and we're going to start to scrutinize those criminal prosecutions. And one last point, I wrote a note here about competitors, because I know mainstream media doesn't want to shine a light on Aiden and his true independent journalism or others. They don't want to show any attention to those who are telling the story the truthful and genuine and authentic way, because they don't want to lose those clicks. They don't want to lose those views. They want to be able to keep up with their appearance of what is newsworthy. But I have found, from just a psychological standpoint, that you can show anyone and shed a light on any of your competitors. But if you produce good quality blank, whatever it is, service, work product, articles, news content, if mainstream media is going to put out good, legitimate, authentic, not skewed content, then it doesn't matter to someone like me that they're going to do stories on Aiden or do stories on other independent journalists who are doing it their way. They're not going to lose an appreciable amount of clicks or reads or any of that social media or other publicity.
Well, that's a great point, because it also I've also said before that the result, if that public trust shifts towards, and the mainstream media sees that public trust shifting towards independent media, that what is mainstream media after all? It's a business. What are they going to do? They're going to supply the demand, is what they're going to do. So why are they shifting to the public trust? Well, it's because they're honest, they're truthful, they deliver the information, they deliver it raw. So that would either force people to just be like, screw mainstream media, we're going with independent media, or they're going to go, mainstream media is going to go, well, we have more of a budget to put towards what they're doing, and we'll just make it more attractive.
Yeah.
Right. And that's great. And that right there, at the end of the day, is still a win, because all we want is for the media to deliver us the entire story, and truthfully and promptly. That's all we want.
But actually, you just put a really good point on it, because they're like, this is what we want. We want the media to do this. The difference is we have to just remember, I guess, at the end of the day, every one of us, and it's always ends up by being very clear who's in it for the right reason and who's not. We're yes, I hate when people call, obviously we know that grifter has been the most overplayed word ever, and that there's nothing wrong with having a business, a YouTube business. There's nothing wrong with getting paid to be an independent journalist, all of that. But every one of us is also here because we're fighting for something we believe in.
That's right.
And we do have to remember that where we talk about, there has to be we do have to appeal to the media's business sense, because we can't assume that they give a crap about any of this or the First Amendment or whether people do the right thing. They show up and get paid. It's their job.
Right.
Right now they turn their noses up. Right. They turn their noses up at people like us, like bloggers, like,
what a bunch of losers. We're doing this for free.
Right. But we're really not, what we're doing is literally living off of the public trust that we have earned. Because I make my money from appreciation from my audience for delivering the information the way that I do.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
You know what like, who's winning here at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is something that they're just going to fear and they're going to minimize. That's why they always call Turtle Boy a blogger. You know what I mean? They won't call him.
They have to undermine him somehow, because they can't accept the fact that he's so self-made, where all of them had to go through the, it's like if you're a Hollywood star and you had to go through the casting auditions and all that, then all of a sudden someone that through another means just propelled themselves into the Hollywood spotlight and became a major star overnight. They almost get treated like an outsider to some degree. It's kind of like when pro wrestler Hulk Hogan and other wrestlers like Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura broke into movies like They Live and Predator. They were kind of Hollywood outsiders, and they're kind of sometimes frowned upon because they didn't go through the the steps.
They didn't pay their dues. Yeah, they didn't pay their dues.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
And who gives a shit if the movie sells? What do I care?
That's
what
right.
Say, what you
That's
think
right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But those people, right, that they don't like the fact that Aiden has what's the word? Right? They've done a better job of being a journalist than they have. Yeah, journalized. Yeah, they've out journalized them. Yeah,
it's a word now, even if it wasn't, because we all understood
journalize
what you meant.
is a verb now. We got it.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go.
Journalized.
Journalized.
But honestly, he's saying, I'm sorry, Jason, just one sentence, which is mainstream media should embrace the fact that what Aiden is being accused of, and when he's vindicated of it and those things, it's going to benefit mainstream media. The First Amendment will survive. The authenticity of asking the right questions, the facing those who are accused and being able to say, why did you do this? Or why are you saying that? It benefits derivatively mainstream media, but they're just too intimidated by him and the truth of what he's advancing, because they don't like the package it comes in.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
They just don't they fear what he represents. Right. You know, like, wait a second, I'm sitting here and I gotta bite my tongue. It's my job. I don't get paid. I get canceled if I use the C word, but this guy does it and he gets more money because people love that he does it. Yes. Are you kidding? No, this is not okay. This changes everything, and I'm just not going to let that happen. Yeah. You know, that's how any mainstream media executive is going to look at that.
And it only benefits them if they were willing to push the envelope anyway. We don't. There doesn't even need to be a witness intimidation law for them to cow to whatever the government wants them to say. Like, they're not pushing the envelope where they need to fear that the witness intimidation law is. So even though theoretically it should benefit them, they should feel that way, I can see why they don't. But to the earlier point, it is interesting, right? This happens in any industry. You used Hollywood as an example, Mazza, but this happens anywhere, right? People work a job and then somebody comes in, and whether it be like nepotism because it's the boss's son or nephew, or whether it be like they're just the new shiny penny, so suddenly they have all the influence. And it's human nature where people get petty about it, and they're like, oh, like, we went to journalism school and you showed up and wrote about ratchets and hoes, and all of a sudden, like, you're doing the math, you're extremely successful, and we're still, we're making $30,000 a year.
My answer would have been, maybe you should have been talking about ratchets and hoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my fault that I picked up the ball and ran.
No, because it's capitalism.
Barstool Sports was another entity that just kind of rose to fruition by basically being, to some degree, controversial, or maybe even a better word for it's uncommon. They had an unconventional way of doing things, and that kind of was the way the internet started to change 12, 15 years ago. And Barstool Sports, David Portnoy and his whole crew, they're getting they had to deal with Bleacher Report, all this stuff. They kind of just ran right up the ranks just because of that alternative media. So it's just sometimes standing out is what your selling point is too, to your point.
TMZ, right? You have all of this, and it goes back to, this is the easiest thing. Like, this business is not new, and the things don't change. Go back to P.T. Barnum. Like, this is exactly what has always happened. Controversy always sells. Edginess always sells. That's part of what everyone is looking for in a package. It's why, if you do tune into the mainstream media, they're no dopes. They hire young, attractive male and female anchors to appeal to their audience, who want to look at them and make them into sex symbols and do all of these things. Like, they're doing it too. They just have this kind of corporate overlord structure that wants to make sure that they don't offend the government and that they don't get sued successfully.
See, but the difference is I'll take being independent any day, just simply because I appeal to independence. Simple.
Right.
Like, I could go and start an OnlyFans tomorrow. They can't, like Christina Rex can't. I can't. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
You just started a fire on the internet. You just started a fire. Like,
I'm just making an example. I'm just making an example. It wouldn't make a difference. It wouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's gonna stick. Everyone wants an OnlyFans for Will. I'm sure that'll be trending on X later.
I immediately regret bringing that.
We need that. Right, how they have. No, you know how they have that for the media, where you get like the bad media. They do like the media bloopers. This is what we need. We need one. I said I want to do a mean tweets video where I read mean tweets about me. Like, that's gonna be great. And now we have this one where it's like that viral moment that Will just created there. We need clips.
I feel like
a recap.
I feel like when we're kind of, and I'm part of it, dumping on mainstream media right now, but it's not too late for them to really circle the wagons and start paying attention to this, at all that Aiden's facing. I also think one of the challenges that Aiden is facing is the fact that the charges against him are disjointed. They're not all coming up for discovery hearings or status hearings or trials at the same time. Many of them, in my opinion, this is my opinion, should be what we call consolidated, just to make it more economically feasible from a judicial standpoint for the courts. For example, and I don't know the specificity of all the facts of each charge off the top of my head. And I know Will did like a very good multi-series analysis of all of the charges, which I need to go back.
It was so long ago that I need to go over them again.
Yeah, like I was thinking a few minutes ago, I'm like, I wonder if you should re-air them or, you know, or direct people to those links. But yes, and maybe going over, and I'm not creating work for you, Will, but even going over them retrospectively, now that you know, we now have the hindsight of retrospection, you know what I mean? Now we know a lot more stuff because Karen's been through her trials and some things have come to light and Proctor's out of a job, etc. But with all of that said, I think about some of the claims that or charges that Aiden's facing, and I say to myself, this can be consolidated with this one. There should be one jury that hears these charges against these that have been raised by the Commonwealth on behalf of these individuals. And that is really making for a disjointed way of following the charges against Aiden. For example, I'm planning, it's not finalized yet, but I'm planning on being up sometime during the week of August 11th. And I know he has a hearing August 13th. I don't know what that's on, but hey, if I'm in the area, I'd love to pop in, but I couldn't tell you and have no idea what it's on. It might just be a status hearing, or it might be involving, it might be the one where Cosgrove's got to come in and answer for the 4,000 blank pages.
I think what it is it's to get the impound lifted on the on those.
Oh,
I think that's what that's going to be about. I could be wrong though.
No, I do believe you're right.
That's what everybody seems to be looking forward to anyway. So
yeah, well, that may be a good one for me to attend when I'm up. But I even would suggest to Aiden or his team even trying to post some little calendar or schedule or embed it into his website. So people can say, oh, okay. Because I know he wants people to come. I know he wants people to at least be standing out or attend. Even having that on his website would help people say, okay, there's a hearing coming up and I'd like to plan to attend it or stand out for it. But this disjointed approach towards these, the panoply of charges just makes it a little bit more difficult for there to be such robust, focused attention on all of the charges.
We need a sleuthy-goosey spreadsheet for Aiden's case. That's what we really need.
Yeah, it's so spread with so many different things that they've thrown at him from so many different measures, and kind of there's different phases of, like when he had his trial recently, I actually thought it was going to be more things were going to be involved in that, and then it was kind of a little bit more sectioned off to just specific things. So it's kind of, they got so many different things on him that they're trying to stamp on him, I should say, that the whole process is kind of, it's tough to follow in terms of like a linear manner because it's just all,
yeah, linear is a good way to describe.
And they're stacking charges from different jurisdictions, and they have, oh, this is the Canton police, this is the Dedham police, this is the state police, right? And they're doing all of this, and it's almost like they threw everything they could at them from every different direction, because it's like one of them's going to stick, right? Like all we got to do is get one of them to stick, and we're going to do that. And that's what their goal is.
Right.
That's my perception as well, is that they're racking up the charges. They're also, costing him money that he has to spend on his attorney fees, legal, all the hours, expenses, things like that. And then, like you said, their hope is to, like you saw with Karen Reed, Karen Reed got acquitted of all the major charges, but then there was that OUI they dinged her on. I'm concerned that their goal here is, like you said, well, if we ding them on one little thing and there's something that carries weight, I think he said all charges are going to end up being dismissed or acquitted. But I still think that it's kind of their play, though, is to just basically, he escapes the room, but they latch onto his ankle at the last minute per se, and that's what ends up getting them. That's their goal. They ought to just back off, and these charges just need to be dropped. And it is sickening listening to Cosgrove, who talks very, very slow, and it's very agonizing to listen to him. And it's just like, oh, these charges. And Every time I hear him say,
feel,
taint team.
yeah.
Go ahead, Will.
I would feel bad for Cosgrove if he wasn't up there lying and doing the dirtiest shit in the world. You know what I mean? But like, he sounds like he's going to keel over any second. And it's like, I can't believe Morrissey's got this poor old guy doing this shit. But maybe he's not just a poor old guy. Maybe Morrissey's got something on him from back in the day. I mean, the guy's coming out from retirement as a judge to prosecute a completely bogus anti-First Amendment case. It's insane.
It's funny because I was exactly where you are, the way that you described, and I was, this guy's just doing his public service, like this is what he's doing his duty. He felt compelled and all of this stuff. When he started arguing against the First Amendment, I was just like, I hate this guy and I don't care. But when he lunged at Meredith O'Neill on the stand, and I'm telling you, the way that district courtroom works is Meredith, I was like a foot and a half away from her, like off to her left behind her. And Cosgrove, he physically lunged toward her. And I started to stand up because I'm just like, I thought I was going to have to push him. Like I thought I was going to lean over the railing and push him backwards. And then I was like, this guy's a lunatic. Like this is way more than just some guy doing his duty.
He's got to have some wires loose, or something. Cause I just don't, either that or like I said, like, because even still, I don't see somebody in his position to do it for the money, to come out of retirement and be like, dude, I'm not, I'm going to be like, dude, I'm not doing that. You're out of your mind. Yeah. The only reason that I would is if back in the day I did something, Morrissey got a hold of some receipts on it, and then it's like, fine. I'll do this shit.
It's time to pay off those debts. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a gambling problem or something. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't figure out, and it has to be because of you have to be on the right track here, because there are far more talented attorneys in Norfolk County that could have been the special prosecutor in this. There are far more people. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't take it, right? They don't want to have anything to do with it. But to get these, Cosgrove went in that same hearing that he lunged at Meredith. About 2 minutes before that, he was asleep. And I'm not talking about like he was dormant. His eyes were closed. His head was slumped. He was sleeping, and then it was like his turn, and he jumped up and he within a minute he was like turning on the courtroom drama because he watched some Lifetime show and said, "Oh, this is how I'm supposed to do it," and the whole thing was ridiculous. So we have this clown show, and it contributes to like Nan saying like it doesn't appear like that they're serious about this. It's almost like the entire time they knew they were just going to bind him up. They were going to let the state police run the show instead of trying to actually assign a real prosecutor, an investigator, and all of these things. And it was a setup from the start. The whole thing. 100%.
The sense I get from watching, I'm sorry, Mazza.
Go ahead.
The sense I get from watching Cosgrove is that he doesn't know anything about the charges. Like he seems like a not a mannequin, a dummy, that someone else, and maybe it's Morrissey or a KP or somebody else.
He's spanking the whole thing. He's totally spanking his way through it. He doesn't have a case, and he's just like, these poor witnesses who have been harassed by Mr. Carney, and it's like
with his YouTube presentations,
his YouTube presentations, and his
taint team,
constant these rolling rallies are, and he just acts like he's on a soapbox talking about people being victimized by his horrible things, but that's all he does. Yeah, and it's just like, but it didn't happen. You're not proving that it did.
Right. Cite the law. Right? Let's hear some case law. Let's hear a legal argument.
Right.
Let's hear a legal argument.
And that's where the difference in judges matters, because on the planet I'm from, judges wouldn't allow that. They would do kind of, and I don't know the judge's name, the one who McLaughlin was in front of the other day, who was kind of putting it to her.
What she does to everyone, Krupp.
Was it Krupp? The female judge.
Oh no, sorry. That was the other hearing.
Pardon my glitching. There was a female judge who Laura McLaughlin was in front of the other day. I can't remember if it was on Brian Walsh or not, but this judge was like, you have an independent duty to review the materials that you were provided by the FBI to determine if there's anything exculpatory or impeachment based in that TUI dump. And McLaughlin was kind of giving it back to her saying, I don't know if Frenier, thank you. I would have never guessed that. That would not have been on my bingo card. Thank you, Kara. That judge, it was a female judge, and that's what the judges look like where I'm from. They would never allow Cosgrove to pull what he pulled. This lack of preparedness, this, spouting out as you gentlemen were just doing about the YouTube presentations and the taint team. That would never happen. But it just seems like a game of Russian roulette as to what judge anyone's going to be before on a given day. And I think it bothers Aiden. He's like, I don't know who I'm in front of.
If I'm Aiden, it scares the shit out of me, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just never know. Like, right now, if I'm Aiden, I'm praying that I just keep the same judge that I got right now, because the judge that he's got right now is awesome. That last bench trial went great. Like, hopefully this guy is still on and they can keep it a bench trial.
Well, the bench trial was in the bench trial was in district court, and that was Pomerol. And
the superior court is different. Okay,
he's my favorite judge because he's old and he's impatient to the point that when people start to wander off, he's like, nope, next. I don't care about that. Do this. Like, he's really but he's no nonsense, but he doesn't tolerate bullshit from either side. And that is a lot like the current judge in Superior Court, where he is like, that's what judges should be. It shouldn't matter whether you're the prosecution or you're the defense. If you're a lawyer and you come into court and you're unprepared and you're doing these things, the judge should call you out. The judge should not tolerate the nonsense, and it shouldn't matter what side you're on.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Judge Doolin is the judge I'm talking about. So I mean, right. So I'm really hoping. I mean, I just don't see this guy. The last time they were talking, they were dealing with this. He was laughing on the bench, dude. Like, he was like,
"It's the Bettero,"
and right. And he loves Bradley Bettero. You know what I'm saying? He knows him. He loves him. And all it takes is for them to present their case. Cosgrove is not going to win this guy over with the evidence that Aiden has. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be great. Hopefully it doesn't have to get to that point. But, like I described to other people, I was like, it's not that I'm looking forward to a trial. It's that if I'm seeing my friend in a street fight, that it's one-on-one, you can't jump in, right? What are you going to do? You're going to be like, dude, whoop his ass. And you're going to get excited to see him whooping his ass. And I want to see Aiden whip the shit out of all this corruption in that trial. If that happens, I want to see these people answer for the shit for the same reason everybody wanted to see Proctor on the stand again, for the same reason everybody wanted to see Brian Albert on the stand again. I want to see Mello on that stand, and I want to see Bettero rip him in a new asshole, dude. Mm-hmm. I just want to see that happen. I just want to see him like Mortal Kombat rip his spine out from his mouth.
Get over here.
Like, yes. I'm dying to see that. Like, but for Aiden's sake, I do hope it doesn't get to that point.
Me too.
Yeah.
It is a catch-22, right? Because that's what people, we go back to what we do. We're like, he's the content creator. This is content, and people want the content. But I just want the First Amendment to win and the guy to be free, and then give us all that content. Give us all tell us all those stories. Tell the things that he can't tell right now about his own case. This dude is handcuffed from talking about so many things in his own case that I don't need that to happen at a trial. You can just tell us after you after the charges get dismissed.
The Karen Reed and Turtle Boy cases have pivoted any direction that I was originally going to go with this channel I don't know what I'm going to do now, but it's definitely not going to be your traditional true crime. Like, if it's just a fucking case that is, who done it, I'm really not interested in that. Like, I'm now, like, to me, that's just going to be fucking boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now I want something to actually fight for.
Right. There needs to be this corruption. It's not.
Yeah. Right. I want. There's got to be other cases that this is happening, and so now I just want to like keep. I want to grow, and I want to like shine as much light on shit like this as I can.
Yeah. And it might be hard to find them because I mean, I don't know if there's going to be anything as similar or intriguing or interesting to you, but I think that this is the natural evolvement of you as a creator. It's why I love following creators. You guys get to choose your own path, and it makes it so interesting to someone in the audience like myself because you follow whatever formula works for you and gives you that spirit and that fire. And I think I'm not alone when I say that. A lot of people who follow content creators and channels with loyalty and faithful viewership, we want to see the development of the content and the creator themselves. So I really admire that.
The Sean Paul Reyes case for me really caught my eye. I'll get to you in a moment, Jason. Sorry. Sean Paul Reyes in Connecticut, really caught my attention because it was something that Aiden talked about in his programming. But what was so insane about that was you had a cop that literally told Sean Paul Reyes to get off his property. And then as he was already leaving, and Sean Paul was taking his time. He was still doing his filming and all that, but they were already basically departing.
Is the footage of that available?
It is. Yeah, it's available on a Long Island Audit. Yeah, go to Long Island Audit. You're going to, Will, you're definitely going to want to talk about this. Aiden did a stream on it, and also Aiden's talked to him on his show live as well. And that was a great back and forth because Aiden got interested in this because he's known of Long Island Audit, I believe, for a while, but their cases are very similar. Now, I will say this. This is very shocking to say, but this cop is actually far more intense than anything Aiden's experienced from a firsthand perspective, meaning you had an officer exit his home after telling Sean Paul to get off his property, but walked out of his house after he was already like 50 feet away, long driveway, and the guy's got a gun in his hand, not holstered. I mean, I have no problem with the cop having a holstered weapon. He's off duty, state police, Connecticut state police officer. This guy's got a gun in his hand. It's already holstered. And then he walks right up to the guy as he's retreating, face to face with him with this gun drawn, spits in Sean Paul Reyes's face, and then just walks him all the way down. And then after he gets to the sidewalk, this is a long driveway we're talking to, well over 100 feet probably. By the time he gets to the sidewalk, he's still telling the guy to get off his property when the sidewalk is public property.
Right. Once you hit the sidewalk, that's it. Yeah.
Right.
And then he's bumping him with his chest. Yeah.
Yeah. The Groton police show up, and then they're immediately taking the side of the state police officer. Well, he's a state police officer. You shouldn't be going to his house, blah, 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 blah. But the fact was that they ended up arresting.
Why
Sean
shouldn't
Paul
I
Reyes.
be?
Yeah. Right. For knocking on his door, told to leave. He starts to leave. And then the cop comes out, pulls the gun. They end up arresting the guy. They get him on recording, is what they end up getting.
Voyeurism.
Yeah, exactly. They just made up anything they could, but it just shows you.
Wow.
Like, if say, like, anybody that's, getting any witness intimidation charges that Aiden has, right? It goes to show you that basically it could have been a lot more extreme than the examples that already happened to Aiden. To the point where if it was something similar to what happened in Connecticut to Sean Paul Reyes, they'd still take that cop side. Even though
doesn't that imply peeping? Doesn't that imply peeping voyeurism?
Yes.
Oh yeah. It's ridiculous.
So, what's he gonna do if this goes to trial? He's just gonna sit on the stand and be like, "Yeah, I've been working for the Massachusetts State Police for so on and so long."
It's Connecticut.
Well, the defendant came up to my door. And he knocked on my door, and I was in the middle of masturbating, and I saw that he had a phone, and I had to get up and answer the door. It forced me with a full-on erection, Your Honor. But I had to, like, is that going to be his argument for this?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Here's the thing. You actually have to go back in this story because I followed this. It's crazy, but I followed this since 2 years ago when they had their first interaction. So he's had other interactions with this cop. He was showing up at the Connecticut State Police headquarters to do a public reques request.
Connecticut State Police. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's
and we
okay.
don't talk like that here, Will, but it's all right. I'll give you a pass. But he was showing up to do a public records request. Everyone lisps in Connecticut. No, I'm just kidding. He was showing up to do a public records request, and the cop, he's in charge of the firearms licensing thing. So, but he was a sergeant on duty in the lobby of the building. And like the first time they met, the guy came out like an aggro monster, and you have to wait outside. You're not allowed to be in the lobby. The Connecticut State Police had to do a big thing about saying our lobbies are open to the public and you're allowed to be here after. But he bumped him with his chest, then knocked his camera out of his hand. The guy went absolutely nuts on him. And then it happened again. And so now he did a one-man rolling rally and went to the dude's house with a billboard truck, which I love. Parked it on the street right in front of all of his neighbors' house. But when the worst part is when the state trooper, the sergeant, Brian Fahey acted like such a maniac, he hadn't even seen the billboard truck yet because it was behind a big row of hedges. He literally went inside his house to get the phone to call the Groton police, got the gun, went back outside. But the truth is Sean Paul Reyes went up, rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, walked back off the porch to create distance. And when the cop came out and said, "Get off my property," he started moving and never stopped. He started moving away in continuous motion, leaving the property, never once stopped. And the cop then, while on the phone with 911, came back outside and initiated a further confrontation. So it wasn't Sean Paul Reyes who was initiating a confrontation. It was the cop, and it was over and over and over and over again. But who gets arrested?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that unholstered firearm, I mean, like in Massachusetts, Connecticut, there's no stand your ground law. And if you do use your own firearm in self-defense, it literally has to be a situation where that person is essentially pursuing you or coming after you to the point where you reasonably have no choice but to open up fire to defend yourself. You have this officer who already had Sean Paul Reyes retreating or departing his property, exit his home with a firearm holstered and pursues him the whole way, which essentially puts him in a self-defense situation, and all that. So that's basically, go ahead. Well,
a stand your ground law, if that exists there, could be applied. That would definitely be argued here.
Where we are, there is no such thing here in the Northeast and in far ultra liberal Northeast United States.
Right. So that would actually work in his favor, in Sean's favor, because here it's like you come knocking on my door, sticking a camera in my face, and I feel threatened, I can shoot you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's really interesting because what the cop was doing while he was backing up is he was in real time editing the narrative. He was writing the report in real time. He saw that he was on camera. And so when he spit, he went, he did it. Like you could see that it was intentional. And then after that, he started saying, "Spit just flew out of my mouth while I was talking." And then he's saying, "You threatened my family on the internet." He's adding things in.
Oh, I can't wait to review this.
Didn't exist. Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. But after you watch that video, you have to go back and watch the previous interactions between him and the same guy. He knew who he was. He knew he wasn't a threat. He knew he was an antagonistic journalist. He knew all of these things. And this was, I think Sean's right. If you watch him when he talks about it, he says, like, if the camera wasn't there, I think I talked about this with Brian, like if the camera wasn't there, he probably would have killed the guy. That probably would have been his moment.
100%.
And that sounds like an exaggeration, but when you watch the video, I think everyone who watches that video will probably come away with the same impression.
100%.
The way you're describing it definitely sounds like the knowledge of the camera being and running in his face at that moment definitely forced him to restrain himself.
Yeah. Not much though. It didn't force him much.
Right. But that's my point. Is that's why it's fair to speculate he probably would have killed him if the camera wasn't rolling.
Oh, absolutely. It was so intense, and he was so he was after him so intensely that whole particular time. It was total madness. I mean, and like Jason said, and Ryan LTL, I've heard
Did
him
he have
say
his hand on his gun?
Oh yeah, no. His hand was in his
hand.
The gun was in his hand.
Oh, it wasn't holstered.
It wasn't. So he had no.
I thought you said it was holstered.
No, he had no holster. So I said that I would have no problem if he had a gun. So say like the cop came out of his house and said, I want you off my property, but he had a holstered weapon. I said I could understand that because he'd have a right to carry. But because he had the gun, he didn't have a holster on. He had the gun in hand. That's now a threatening action, which actually, honestly, this could have been a real ugly situation because Sean Paul Reyes kept this cool. But I'm telling you right now, there's individuals out there that either would have panicked or become hostile. And the way, I'm just saying this. If I was in that situation, I would have felt so threatened by that I don't know how I would have reacted. But it would have been possible that it could have incited a response out of someone like myself or others that are more likely to actually respond to a live threat like that, because now Sean Paul Reyes was not presenting himself as a physical or violent threat in that situation. However, this cop, once he introduced that weapon, it's not about gun. It's not guns are bad. That's not the point I'm making here. But once a gun is in your hand, the tone that you're setting now, correct, is a threat. It's a hostile situation. It also puts Sean right, and it puts him in a self-defense situation. But Sean Paul ended up continuing to back up. But this cop was also being physically aggressive, like Jason said. Chest to chest.
He would have pistol whipped them for sure if that camera wasn't right.
I agree with you
for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So like lethal force was not justified at any point. The cop was the aggressor.
I'm sorry. I'm actually gonna have to hop off, guys. But
okay,
dude, I had an awesome time. Mazza, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you guys. Jason, always pleasure. Nan, say bye to Nan for me. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Will the Glarer, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for popping on. Yeah, you got it, man. We'll talk about more. Definitely, man. Appreciate it. Will the Glarer, ladies and gentlemen, follow him on X. Follow him on YouTube. He is one of my favorites as well. Always been a big fan of the Glarer. And we'll just pull you off the screen here, Will. Thank you. All right, Nan's going to be back shortly with us. Jason, let's continue talking. I just wanted some of the things on your mind, too, right now. Do you have some time still, or are you looking to
I do, yeah, I'm good. Nope.
Okay.
I'm not gonna take for granted my first appearance on the amazing MazzaMedia channel here. So I'm
appreciate
in. So it's really interesting to me because we have this while we're talking about First Amendment auditors. I'm not always a fan of their work in terms of I'm a fan of the First Amendment, but a lot of times you see these auditors who will go out there and they will there was a big movement in Texas for a while, including kind of how I got involved in following any of this stuff. There was a case of a First Amendment auditor who had molested his own daughters, who had been convicted of rape years earlier and misspelled his name or whatever. And so I was always kind of leery of that, because what you'd see these auditors showing up at places and misciting the law. Like they'd be wrong on the law. They'd be doing this. We're going to educate it. But a lot of the cases, they were just people that had criminal records that were anti-police, and it wasn't about the First Amendment and about doing that. Don't get me wrong, like I support them using it, even if they're using it as a tool to be a tool. But we have this scenario where you'd then have auditors who are watching these people all across the country, and the police would come up and they would ask for ID, and they would say, "Oh, Section 3802 says I don't have to give you the ID." So they're talking about Texas Penal Code 3802, but they're in California, or they're in like New Jersey, and they're citing this because their favorite YouTuber said 3802 says I don't have to give you ID unless you're arresting me, because that's the way the law works. The Penal Code 3802 in Texas says you can't provide a fake ID, but you don't have to actually provide an ID unless you're under arrest. So it's a little bit more aggressive than the statutes in other states in terms of being like a stop and identify state. In Texas, they actually have to arrest you to force you to ID based on 3802. But you'd see these people that are going out there and they're saying this. So I'm not a huge fan of just any First Amendment auditor, but there are some amazing people that are out there that do it, and they do it. Jeff Gray, honor your oath. If anyone hasn't had a chance to watch Jeff Gray, he just stands on the side of the road. He goes to a City Hall, steps of City Hall. He goes to just public, housing developments, but he never leaves the sidewalk, and he just has a sign that says, "God bless the homeless vets." That's what this guy does. He just goes and he stands there and he waits. Next thing you know, people call the police and, you have to move along and you have to do this. I support the hell out of that stuff, because that's a guy who's not out there trying to argue the law from a incompetent position on the sidewalk to the police officers. It's a guy who literally is doing the most valued expression of his First Amendment rights, where he's standing there and freedom, God bless the homeless vets, right? Freedom of expression, freedom of religion. And so I support the hell out of those guys. And I think that Sean Paul is one of those. He's somewhere in between. He's got his own history, right? But he follows the rules the best that he can, and usually is correct where the people on the other side are not correct. So I support him. It's like a natural thing to me. He had every right to walk up to that guy's house. He had every right to stand in the lobby at the Connecticut State Police headquarters. He had every right to do these things. So it's just such a natural way to natural situation to support somebody in. And I will definitely be covering that case here in Connecticut. You don't have that many.
No, that's great. That'd be great. Yeah, he needs that support. And it's just, like I said, I thought the arrest was absolutely ridiculous. And, all he really did was knock on a door, recording or whatever. But it's just like, oh my goodness. I've actually never heard of Long Island Audit. It was completely new to me. And then I ended up finding out that he has a big following. It's like almost like a 780 something followers on YouTube or whatever it was. I'm like, wow, this guy has got, I'm shocked I never heard about it. Maybe I've just been too internalized into the whole like Karen Reed Turtle Boy world, where I haven't really branched out into the world of true crime outside of Massachusetts. But I was like, okay, wow, this is a pretty big channel here, and also this video was pretty intense.
It's kind of its own genre, this First Amendment auditing. It doesn't necessarily cross over into true crime as much, because almost all of the interactions you're seeing are pre-court. Most of these don't even make it to court, because like the cops will get qualified immunity, or something will happen along the way, or there'll be a settlement or this and that. So that's the other thing, is most of these cases, it's always petty charges, right? Like it's going to be a trespassing charge or a disturbing the peace charge or whatever else. So you don't end up with a high profile murder trial like the Karen Reed case. So these cases, if they make it to court, it's a one-day trial in a district court, usually by a judge and not a jury, and they'll throw the case out, or they'll assess $100 fine. And so they're not getting the media attention that 100 years in jail for Turtle Boy gets, or that the murderer of John O'Keefe gets. So it really is kind of a subspecialty of, rather than being about true crime.
I too, Mazza, had not heard of Long Island Audit, and then when Aiden kind of piped in with that, I don't know, it was like in the middle of like a Friday. I'm like, what is this? And then I sunk right into it, because there's so many parallels between the two of them. And now I find this a very interesting genre in and of itself. But in addition to that, one of the things that I really like about Long Island Audit, in the short time I've known of his existence, is the fact that he knows the law. He knows the limits he can push. He understands trespassing. He understands even just the minutia of looking into the overtime and the excess that has been paid to Trooper Fahey. He understands use of force. He understands retreating from a premises properly. I think he took his time a little bit while he was retreating, but at the same time, I don't walk backwards very quickly either. And he found this as an important news story. And then as most recently as his press conference after his arraignment, I think it was on Friday, might have been Thursday. But at his press conference, he's been doing even more digging. He's been looking into the reasons why Trooper Fahey is working a desk job, the problems with him previously. And he's like a dog with a bone, which reminds me a lot of Aiden Carney. And he's not afraid to back down. the additional point I would make as to Sean Paul Reyes is that when I was on LTL Media last Monday with retired Massachusetts State Police Todd McGee, he was saying he thinks 1,000%. I mean, that's a big number. 1,000% he thinks the charges are going to be dismissed as to Sean Paul Reyes and his cameraman, whose name I respectfully don't remember right now. But I look at that, and even if that's the case, even if the charges get wholeheartedly dismissed, that to me shows me that more of a light needs to be shined upon this, because look at what Reyes and his cameraman will have had to have spent on attorney's fees, the emotional distress that they've faced by this. And I'm not saying that they should sue and there should be 1983 civil rights actions, although there should be.
And there will.
But what I am saying is, even if the charges go away, the story has just begun. The story is now writing itself as far as I'm concerned. And I know if it were Aiden, he would want to continue writing that story. I'm sure Sean Paul Reyes wants to continue writing. I'm using that colloquially, but writing that story, because why does law enforcement get to have a green light to just trounce upon someone's civil rights and to wave a weapon around and say, I'm a GD Connecticut State Trooper, and I'm going to point my weapon at you or point it down at the ground to get you off my property, which, so I'm hoping, the sense I get from Sean is that he isn't going to back down, and I certainly don't think he should. And I don't know the distance between where everyone is situated in Massachusetts and New London, Connecticut, for example. Maybe Jason can chime in on that. But to me, anyone who can make the trip to support Reyes and his cameraman in their plight, like, the parallels are very noteworthy. And again, very, very important First Amendment issues. The issue that, and we've said this previously, mainstream media wasn't knocking on that door. So we have an independent journalist who found this story. Maybe he has a little bit of an axe to grind because of what happened at, I guess it was the police department, that kind of precipitated this. But he found the story, and he's calling it his way. He's pursuing it his way within the legal limitations, and he's doing it well. So, I mean, I really hope that Aiden continues that story. I hope Sean continues that story, and then everyone continues to support them both.
Yeah, in terms of location, sorry, I'm just going to throw it. In terms of location, it's actually about the same distance for me as it is for them. It's probably about 90 minutes.
Okay.
I could do it in a little bit less, or, I could probably do it in an hour. But it's not, especially people who are on the South Shore, if they just head straight down 95. Doesn't take long to get to New London. And so there should be that support. And this is one of the things that you mentioned was he was backing up, but he had actually turned around and was walking that way, and he turned back around as soon as he saw that Sergeant Fahey had a weapon. And his rationale is, if someone's got a gun out and they're doing that, I want to have my eyes on that. Like, I want to see where that is. But in terms of how long it took him to go, he just never stopped. Once he started moving, he never stopped until he got off the property. So to me, it's like, there's nothing in the statute that says you have to get off the property within 10 seconds. And I'm sure a judge gets to determine how long and whether he thought it was reasonable. So did it cross over into violating the trespassing statute? But it's going to be a really hard argument to make when you say this person was in constant motion from the moment that he was told to leave, and he didn't stop until he was off the property. So,
yeah. And I really want Will to, I was a little surprised he hasn't even seen this yet. Like, I want to see his off the cuff, authentic reaction to that video, because it's right up his alley. He'll have fun with that.
Oh, he will. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's one person I definitely want to see his reaction to. And it's just like I said, once a gun's in, once someone brings a gun or a knife or any kind of weapon like that, now, like I said, now here's the thing. I mean, at this point, Sean Paul Reyes already being in retreat like he was, if he now starts to, if he wanted to go, oh my God, he's got a gun, he's coming right after me, and all of a sudden Sean Paul Reyes wanted to start acting in self-defense, I'd have to imagine that holds up in court. That, hey, look, well, the guy did come after him with a gun. He had been, in retreat. And then this guy came after me with a gun. I didn't know what he was going to do. He was aggressive. He got in my face. He was coming after me, and I thought I was going to die, and I felt like defending myself. I mean, that's when you bring that gun, you bring a weapon in general, that's when it starts to escalate things and really starts to change the scenario here, which is very dangerous for this officer, too, to be doing something like that. Because once you escalate something to that level, especially when an officer is supposed to be de-escalating, not escalating, that's also a very big thing. But it also shows you how threatened this cop was by him, not just physically, but just in general, that Sean Paul Reyes, like Aiden Carney, has really ruffled a lot of feathers, which is why people have gone after them in the manner that they have, because they're afraid of the truth getting out. They don't like the fact that this person could expose them for, I think, over $75,000 in overtime was what it was.
Yeah.
This is where it really becomes an issue for them, because they're so threatened and they're so afraid that they literally feel like they got to pull a gun to protect themselves because they're absolutely paranoid and scared. It's just amazing.
I actually completely disagree with this, because if you watch every interaction with the cops, he's not afraid. He's not afraid in any way. Even about the overtime allegation, he said Sean said 75,000. He goes, it's more than that. This is something very unique.
That's a good point.
With this particular cop, he created all of the aggression in every interaction that he's ever had with him, and so now there's at least 3 in person, and he created the aggression out of thin air. This is literally, Sean was waiting for someone from Internal Affairs to talk to about a public records request in the lobby. And he went outside the lobby and he went to go back in, and this guy just came over and slammed the door closed on him to prevent him from coming in for no reason. The lobby was open to the public.
Let me substitute my word afraid. Let me change that word to unnerved instead. Would that be more fitting?
It could be, but this is an anger response. So this is like, this guy is just that guy. He's just aggressive. He has disdain for Sean. He doesn't like that he's there filming. He doesn't like that he is exercising his rights, and he's going to teach him a lesson. That's the message every single time they interact. There's a really good, if people are going to go over to Long Island Audit's channel and watch the video, there's actually a really good video that he put up 9 days ago. This must see. I was wrong about Sergeant Fahey's criminal charges, and he has an attorney. I don't know where that attorney is from. I don't know him. He must be a popular YouTuber. I have no idea.
The Sutton Droll attorney or whatever his name was there.
Yeah, but the legal analysis in that video is so on point. Like, so if you watch it, like, this guy is, I know we have our built-in excellent legal analysis that we get from Nan Gallagher.
Yes.
But if anyone wants to see like a well thought out long form video that goes through all of the relevant Connecticut statutes and how they can be applied and shouldn't have been applied and whatever else, and he covers how it's not assault, but he also goes in, he just lays the roadmap for the prosecution of Sergeant Brian Fahey. It's a really good video, and everyone should go watch it.
And Fahey has, I'm getting information from Sean Paul Reyes at his post-arraignment presser the other day. Trooper Fahey has a prior, at least one instance with a firearm that put him in a desk job.
There's a reason he was at a desk, yes.
Right. So if there was prior, I'm going to say, alleged misuse or mishandling of a firearm, if there was a prior incident that kind of precipitated him working a desk, and now you have the use of a firearm at his residence against Sean and his cameraman, I still have a question as to whether that was a state-issued firearm versus his own personal firearm, which would matter to me, because I don't think taxpayers of Connecticut should be allowing and standing up for a trooper in his residence using a state-issued handgun to defend his residence from an independent journalist who's there to ask legitimate questions about the abuse and overuse of overtime. Someone in your chat, Mazza, a short while ago, and I'm amazed that I caught it without glasses, said something about it was GP dog drool, $500,000 in overtime. in the last 5 years, which is something I believe Sean had indicated in his presser. That's ridiculous, especially if all or some of that time period involved administrative duties at a desk. In addition to that, Sean identified at his presser that he approached the residents in the middle of a work day, a day of the week. Okay, not on a weekend, in the middle of the day. So did Trooper Fahey have the day off? Or was he supposed to be at his desk at that time? Now, it is quite possible he had the day off. I'm not saying that is objectively improper, but I have questions, and someone like Sean has questions. What was he doing home? Plus, as you were discussing, the multiple instances of re-aggression by Trooper Fahey towards Sean and his cameraman, didn't go into the house and remain in the house, came out of the house, had a firearm, went at him. I think he went back once and then came back at him. And then that kind of pattern repeated itself to some degree until the moment that Sean ultimately and his cameraman were arrested. It's just, I've got questions, and that's where someone like me wants an independent journalist who's brave and bold, like Sean, or even like Aiden, to tell me that story without the spin. And I wish more people would gravitate towards that and appreciate that.
And being here in Connecticut, I'm definitely going to cover that story as well. And I'm happy to. I have really good Connecticut State Police sources, I don't know if they'll talk to me about this. It'll be interesting to see.
I can't wait
to see what I can get out of them in regard to this, because we all know how the blue wall works, right? And it'll be interesting to see what I can hear off the record or on the record. What I will say is, if I only hear stuff off the record, I'll tell both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I might not be able to tell everyone.
Right. Oh, it'd be interesting. This is a wild case. It's caught my attention. It's like, oh my goodness, like this is the kind of stuff I'm into, is kind of like the active corruption aspect of things. As soon as I saw that story, I'm like, wow, this is something else right here. It really is. It's kind of, it really parallels Aiden. I see why Aiden brought it up on his show, because Aiden can't help but say, hey, look, here's another guy in Connecticut that's basically in a situation similar to mine. And how quickly they went after him with arrest and arrested his cameraman as well. They're both being cuffed up. It was just so insane how quickly they came down on him. And then you parallel it back to what Aiden, and he's going through. It's just every little thing Aiden does is, well, let's get a charge on him for this. Let's get a charge on him for that. He went for donuts and didn't ask for a receipt. He left without a receipt. Charge him for that. It's just, that's basically the way it's been. And it's kind of really unnerving to watch and just see how they come after someone like this, because they're threatened by Aiden's reporting and his journalism. And, they're all now in situations. I mean, you see what's happened even since the Karen Reed trials ended, how many people are in different situations that have been called out by Aiden and many Karen Reed supporters / Turtle Boy supporters for a long, long time, and are now seeing different scenarios in their lives. And it's just, it's definitely, we're getting the wins. Our side is getting the wins. It's taken time to get a lot of them, but when you start to actually list them out little by little, they add up quite a bit. And I think there's more to come too. There's more to come. And I think that's the important part for all of us, is that we continue to, okay, Karen Reed's freed, and I know someone told me it's time to move on. Well, is it? Is it, when we're still, the same system still exists in the state? There's people that have not been arrested or taken into custody for the murder of police officer John O'Keefe. None of that has ever come to conclusion. All we know conclusively now is that Karen Reed did not do that, and that is now on the record as the result of the second Karen Reed trial. But yet people that are responsible, or persons responsible, whether that's at a cover-up level or physically involved, have still not been properly questioned by the proper authorities that have an earnest idea in mind of actually questioning them on the higher level. And that kind of keeps me up at night at the end of the day, because, justice for John O'Keefe is what Karen Reed has always been about. But to get there, Karen Reed needed to be freed first. Now that's been done.
And not only that, but you're right that the the mission was to free Karen Read, but it's definitely not the end game, because the truth is we know this is happening. We see this over and over and over again. And how many times did this happen where people took the plea deal?
Mm-hmm.
How many times did this happen where their lawyers said to them, look, they're going to charge you either get this or they're going to charge you with this felony. They sent a message to every public defender in doing this. They sent a message to all of these attorneys that, like, hey, listen, if you don't take the deal or cooperate, we're going to upcharge your client to the point that, like, it's going to cost them $1 million, right? And so this was an anomaly that Karen Read, they didn't count on Aiden. They didn't count on Karen being able to marshal the resources to actually put on this kind of defense. They're used to having the big stick. And in this case, their big stick wasn't a match for the big stick that the defense had, partially and mostly because of Aiden Carney and his awareness that he brought to this case, so that it was able to bring in so much money and so much attention, which always brings in, guess what, more money. Right. So we had all of this scenario. They didn't count on that, but they've probably done this 30 times, 40 times. We're talking about decades and decades of these people being in control and being in office. And it's scary. It's really, really scary. And so you're right. We can't shut up. And I anticipate that, like Nan was talking about earlier, that there's going to be Section 1983 civil rights lawsuits that are following. We know that we see that in some of the rubber duck stuff, that it's going to head in that direction, and the Canton 9 stuff and all of this. And we see they actually took proactive steps. We know that they know this too, right? Because they took proactive steps where they took things to grand juries that were ridiculous. Like, you don't bring a duck case to the freaking grand jury, because they can outright charge them. They don't need to use the grand jury as part of the process. Right. They have the authority to issue the charges. They use the grand jury because they know that they're up to shady bullshit, and they're trying to use the grand jury to insulate themselves from the liability that's going to follow for it. So you have this scenario where they can say, well, no, we just presented the evidence to the grand jury. We have prosecutorial immunity. We presented the evidence to the grand jury. The grand jury is the one that decided to charge them, and we just followed suit. It's all a game that they started from the beginning, knowing that they were bullshit charges, and they added a layer in. You would never, ever, under normal circumstances, bring a lady leaving a rubber duck thing on the bench on the sidewalk before a it's insulting. It's insulting to have that, to invest that level of resources into a case, and the only reason you would do it is if the fuckery was afoot.
Yeah, right.
That's what's happened.
That's true. It's insane. The Richard Schiffer thing, it was just like, come on, rubber ducks all over town. You know,
and again, and not just once, twice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's true. Eric D, same thing. Like Eric D, I'll tell you what, Eric D, he's a perfect example of someone who didn't fit the regular mold of being like just a devoted Turtle Boy follower, and that was it. And he's just somebody who was from Canton, who literally, I met him on the sidewalk in front of the Canton Police Department doing what he always does, which was he stood there and he held a sign that said, "I love Canton." That was his sign. He didn't hold the sign that said, the Canton police are corrupt. He didn't hold the sign that said, Helena Rafferty has to go. He didn't hold the sign that called anyone murderers. His sign said, "I love Canton." And he would stand there on the sidewalk. I love this, by the way. When I met him, it was the most fascinating thing to me, because he would stand there on the sidewalk and he would just hold his "I love Canton" sign. He'd wave to every car that goes by. And let me tell you, by the way, that's an experience when you're out in front of the Canton Police Department, because we all know this community we've created, right? Like this big, and they're clogging the streets of Dedham and all of this. But when you're in Canton, things are a little bit different there. People are friends with the McAlberts. People are ingrained in this. People are sick of all the attention on their town, regardless of how they felt about Karen Read. There were people that were pro Karen Read that at one point were just like, I just wish this trial would end, and I don't care which way it ends, because I just need it to be over, because we're getting hammered here every day. So I did like a kind of an informal social experiment out on the sidewalk. I wanted to see the reaction, so I was standing next to Eric and I was waving to every car that went by or whatever. And it was very clear. You could see the people who gave you the dirty looks. Some people flip you off, you know what I mean? But the number, it was like 95 to 5%. The people of Canton, who a lot of them couldn't speak up for themselves, were not mad. They weren't upset that we were out there on the sidewalk. They beeped, they waved. And let me tell you, that includes some of the police officers. So that was I was counting myself on cruisers, how many of the cops would wave back or be friendly. And it was a really interesting thing. But to have that guy get charged for what? For holding a sign that says I love Canton? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're asking to be sued.
Yes. Yeah. But it's this pattern of questioning authority, trying to peek behind the veil or the thin blue line, whether it was Karen or anyone else who couldn't, like you were saying, who could never even afford attorneys, or who were presented with plea agreements, or those who could only be eligible for public defenders. Now you have Aiden, who actually does, through engagements like this, have resources to pay for 2 very exceptional attorneys, and now Olivia Lamb, who's working for their team, which is just a tremendous ad. I can't wait to see what ingenuity she brings to that equation, which is going to be fire as far as I'm concerned. And then you have in Connecticut, we were talking about Sean Reyes, people who just question police overreach, and then the corruption and interconnectedness of the district attorney's office. And, maybe in some instances, judicial issues. I know, hours and hours and hours of content went to Judge Bev, and where the attorneys kind of started with, we don't like her rulings, then it was bias, then many of the law tubers, of which I'm not one, kind of pivoted to, this is full-blown corruption here. So all of it needs to face the sunlight to really see how deep this beast and its roots lie. And I think having conversations like this is one part, but one very important part of that solution. So I appreciate everyone for even just coming on today on a Sunday and listening to these very, very important issues. And I praise Aiden for making this the bone that he wants to keep going at, and trying to uncover the depths of how deeply this is just uprooting everything in that community, hopefully with a lens towards finding it everywhere and stopping it.
Absolutely.
Dan, is this is the first time I think that we've officially landed on a panel together, and it's so funny because we've talked about it for quite a while that we should end up, but I just dawned on me that it's my first time on MazzaMedia, and it's my first time sitting next to you on a panel right over there.
There you go. It's a first for you. Yes, I have graced MazzaMedia two or three, maybe 4 times.
You don't have to brag now.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not one of his major recurring guest stars. But I love Mazza so much. I love his fundraisers. And yes, Jason, this is a first for us. I hope and look forward to many more occasions where we can contribute collectively.
I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to call the show here, wrap it here, and I just want to, it's about 3 hours, so not that bad at all. 3 hours is great for a Sunday, especially when it's raining out, definitely. So what a great show. We definitely talked about a lot of different things, and that's fantastic, as well as so much going on, from Juston Root, Sandra Birchmore, Sean Paul Reyes, Aiden Carney, and anything that may continue with Karen Reed as well, from civil lawsuits, any suit she may end up filing against the state someday as well. We got a lot of great guests on this show today. The Glarer, Britt Happens and Broken Baker. I believe Britt Happens is live now with Broken Baker, so if you guys want to check that out, definitely do. Nan Gallagher says, please like and subscribe. Yes, thank you so much, Nan. I agree. If you guys could subscribe to my channel, I'm going to make the shameless plug. Please subscribe to my channel. Shameless plug, cheap pop. But no, Attorney Nan Gallagher, once again, I thank you so much for coming on this program today. I appreciate everything you've brought to the whole. Everything Karen Reed, everything Aiden Carney has been just incredible. And then, of course, not Haley Walbrecht, a.k.a. Jason Broyles himself. First time ever on this show. I mean, I've been on many shows together, but first time on MazzaMedia. It hit me recently, like, last night I'm like, I want to have guests today. And last night I'm like, let me just message. I just started going down the list, sending messages to people. I'm like, let's see who shows up. And we got a bunch of people to show up, which was great.
According to the trolls, I'm desperate, so I'm always the one to hit up when you can't get anyone else. The trolls will tell you.
Right, exactly.
Well, and the trolls say that I only make donos to creators, so they put me on their streams. I pay for my appearances. So.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
What about your co-panelists? Because I'd be happy to shoot you my Venmo. Let me send you my.
Absolutely, I am an inverted grifter. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want your money. I just want to drive that car, though. I do want to drive that car.
I have a few. So,
but you know which one I want to drive.
You want to drive Amira, my new Lotus. She's badass. Yeah, I'll probably take her out later. It's a 2-seater, so I'll have to pick one of my kids, take her out for a spin, or maybe I'll just come pick up Mazza.
No, there you go. They're gonna know. Your kids are gonna gauge when they get older. They're gonna make fun of each other about which one was the favorite by who got to go in the car more with mom. So,
and you know who it usually is in that car? Just me having a good time listening to pick any content creator I follow. I'm usually listening to something.
That's awesome.
See that?
Those cars are awesome. Those cars are really awesome.
I can tell you, I am going to be by my calendar right now. I do plan on being at Aiden's hearing on the 13th in August, and I do hope you make it up, Nan. I'd love to see you there. And you know, we just have to march forward. Like, it's Karen Reed is free, but the work is nowhere near done. And so streams like this, where, you know, we talk about the mainstream media not giving him the attention that he needs. So let's let that cause us to dig a little bit deeper and do more and raise more awareness. If you don't have the money, it's great, but raise awareness, share these streams so that your friends can see them. You don't have to end the stream is ending, but it doesn't mean you can't go and donate tomorrow if you get paid, or reach out to your friends on Facebook and share the stream and say, hey, watch this. We really need to support this guy. Like, everyone can do their part. And everyone should, because I know we're going to keep doing it. And we hope that you, the audience, will continue with us.
And I just wanted to say to Mazza, I know that you don't stream with vast regularity. And I very, very much love finding out that you are streaming. And even if it's kind of haphazard sometimes, you are so talented. I know
thank you.
I try to tell you that as often as I can, but you're one of the best out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We definitely all want you to keep going. That's I think it's a universal feeling, not just your audience, who I'm sure is going to agree with me in the chat, but the rest of us too. Whenever we end up, and I've had this conversation with other creators, like, we need people who put out good content, and you put out good content. You know what I mean? We have thoughtful discussions, insightful panels, and it really is a great way to frame the issue, not just for our audience, but I feel that way here sitting on the panel. I'm learning more about these cases and other people's perspectives, and I just think it's a valuable service. And I for one would hate it if you weren't here doing it. So I'm glad.
Thank you so much to both of you for that. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's tough to get shows in these days for me, and then I try to get once a week at least, like one day every weekend. Like yesterday, I'm like, should I do a show? And I'm like, no, it's sunny out. Let me do the yard work today before it rains today. When I'm stuck inside with the rain, that's the day to do the shows.
There you go.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for spending Sunday afternoon with me. And I hope you guys have a great late afternoon and evening today. And I got definitely some things I got to do here shortly. So Attorney Nan Gallagher, Jason Broyles joining the show today. Guys, thank you so much. We'll definitely do a show again in the future. Definitely more to talk about as the weeks roll by, and take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you. Have a great rest of your Sunday and a great week.
Yep. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jason. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So what a great show today. Jason Broyles, and we had Nan Gallagher, the Glarer, Britt Happens, and Broken Baker all joined today's show. Guys, I thank you so much for that. In closing, Hulk Hogan passed away this past week. For me, Ozzy Osbourne, I listened to plenty of his songs, as well as Malcolm, who played Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, passed away this past week. But for me, Hulk Hogan was the one that was near and dear to me in terms of me being a big fan of him, dating back to childhood. So It's just very sad to see Hulk Hogan go. I know there's mixed feelings about him. I know some people don't like politically his opinions or even some of the controversial remarks he had made that were leaked. I totally get it. But for me, I'll always just see him as that wrestler when I was a kid. And I'm definitely going to miss him in that aspect and his contributions to the industry. No question. I was a kid that had his action figure in the late 80s. I had the Wrestling Buddy. I watched all his movies, not all of them. I watched Suburban Commando was my favorite, but watched him in WWF, WCW, when he came back to WWE. So I just want to say, just rest in peace to the Hulkster. I'll never forget you. And you were one of my first childhood heroes. No question about that. And it was definitely sad to see, for me at least, to see him go, even though there's mixed opinions on him. For me, it was sad. He was just a guy I looked up to as one of my big heroes growing up. So it's definitely tough to see, but he had a great career. Great career, revolutionized the business of wrestling, and really everything people see today or 10 years ago is all kind of really in part because of all his contributions and his star power and his ability to, appear on Saturday Night Live, cross into Hollywood, just all that stuff, make movies. It was TV shows, Thunder in Paradise. I used to watch Thunder in Paradise on TBS or TNT back in the 90s when that aired. But yeah, it was definitely sad to see. Some of my favorite matches with him was Andre the Giant at WrestleMania, Macho Man at WrestleMania, Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania, and then probably versus The Rock at WrestleMania as well down the road. Those are probably four of my favorite matches of his for sure. So that'll do it. So I got some things I got to do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. We raised $640 for Aiden Carney's defense fund today. Fantastic job. Thank you to everybody for doing that. And we will be back again with another show at a time unknown yet, but there'll be another show sometime soon. And we'll talk about a lot of things as they end up coming up. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a great rest of your afternoon here, great rest of your Sunday, and also have a great rest of your weekend. And best of luck this week. Hope you guys get vacation this week. If not, get through the work week, get through the school week, well, not school week, work week, and you guys should be good to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to MazzaMedia. Again, please subscribe, like this video. And again, I'm on a roll. So thank you from MazzaMedia. I am Mark. Thank you, guys.